today. Hello, everybody. Yay, hello. Wonderful Sunday, a sunny Sunday, although it's not quite sunny. We're going to call out the sun. Good afternoon, dear lighted ones. I've been going through another huge kind of expansion and contraction, and just been really chill on what that feels like. Just allowing all of the energies to just commingle. And so what we wanted to bring up today was a spin-off as all of our sessions are kind of culminating. Our last class, our last video, we touched on, and we're going to talk about it more and more, the contraction and expansion of the accelerating light field. And we talked about this kind of following the light. All aspects of creation that are in non-physical form, and even when you're a higher vibrational, when you're awakening, you understand that source is all that is life. The innate inertia of just being pulled into these new directions is just following what feels good, following what feels light. Why following our excitement is so very key to all of our own personal, social experiences, the magnetics of who we are. Those magnetics of who we are going to become even more and more important, following what you are as a creative being, because we are a creative source. We are mirrors of the source creator. And why following your excitement is going to be so very important, because that excitement is the magnetic pull. And that magnetic pull is what we're going to be talking about today, and it's going to be called the new magnetic. Because there's a lot of systems of the lower realms that are being pulled out and then recapitulated back into the toroidal. Every universe in this, we just talk about multiverse, is going through a similar experience based on where that universe is vibrating. Just as you have friend groups, if you will, and then there's some, it's starting to hail, there's some magnetic energies of those that you hang around might not be within your magnetics. So that's why some friends and friend groups will just drop off, because the magnetics are not the same. So it's very similar to what's going to be happening over the next little while, very, very quickly. There is that weeding out and that pulling out of magnetics that don't fit anymore. And it means they don't fit. It means that they just don't oscillate. They can't, there is an equation, like the E equals MC squared. That core vibration of that molecule, of that being, of that pod, cannot handle that light at which it's oscillating, because it has a new now medium. So every time we go up into a new magnetic experience, we're being pulled by light, we're being pulled by light. Source Creator is adding more light to every vibrational thread. Everybody on Earth is at a different magnetic. Everybody on Earth is at a different pacing and temperament, which means that they're going to be operating in their own oscillating comfort zone. If they're not working on, as we've talked about, their ascension pathway, if they're not clearing the density, if they're not moving into that greater, higher form of light, that means they're going to be staying at a slower, lower vibrating medium. So those of us that have been on the path for quite some time, we're getting more practiced and entrained at how to recapitulate light. We're getting used to how to recapitulate the light paradigms. You're being shifted paradigms all the time. We talked about the difference between timeline jumping and paradigm shift. Paradigm shift is where your guides and you have chosen at the highest level to do an alter course, because the magnetics of where you are at is just not fitting for you anymore. So you have to alter course to maintain the overall soul's blueprint. The magnetics are really a big part in every single vibrational thread, every vibrational timeline. So that means, I'm just going to close that and see if it's... Magnetics is everything. Magnetics is the moon and how we operate within our solar system, and what gets pulled from the deepest, darkest parts of ourselves, and what we maintain within ourselves. So magnetics is going to be everything from here on out. When we talked about following that light, it's a higher, faster magnetic. So you have to entrain yourself every new spiral of now. What is your new magnetic? How are you operating to, again, look at yourself in self-love, compassion, forgiveness, because those are high vibrating experiences. Joy is a high vibrating experience. Following your excitement is a high vibrating experience. And continually to entrain yourself to higher vibrational magnetics. because there are going to be shifts, and those shifts will pull you along. As we said earlier, as a spiritual being, if you weren't in the physical realm, if you will, your spirit is saying, follow the light, follow the light, follow the light. So you're going to be shown, and your teams and your guides and your higher self, that's their responsibility, is to keep showing you light, to keep reminding yourself of who you are as light, to keep reminding yourself to operate as light. That way you will always be in alignment of the higher vibrational threads and pathways and the highways and the freeways that are turning off, if you will. You know, just like a freeway has many turnoffs. That's what following the light is like. There's going to be paths where you're just going to be straight on the road and you're going to be continually going. And then you're going to have to take detours, and your teams will literally pull you off. Sometimes that's what a paradigm shift is just when there's been too much of a rotation, you've done the work there, there's no more for you to further learn, and there's a lot of stagnant energies around you. Your teams and your guides, I call them spirit parents, if you will, they're going to place a paradigm shift. Those are a little bit more challenging. They're not challenging. We'll know a paradigm shift when you move into one. A paradigm shift, you'll have the physiological symptomologies. You'll have, you'll feel kind of dizzy for the first little bit because you're in a higher oscillating light. You're in a higher oscillating experience, and your body has to adjust. You'll usually wake up just feeling different. You'll be in more of a kind of a foggy sense of mind space, because your teams are really letting go of all the older memories and energies that you don't need to hang on to. So a paradigm shift is very more evident than a timeline shift. Timeline shifts I find timeline shifts very quick. Timeline shifts is when you're going back and forth in time to kind of wrap up energies within very important stories of your own soul's evolution. And they're usually done through, if you're a grid worker, if you know you're a grid worker, if you're working with Gaia a lot, if you're always with Gaia, if you're working a lot with Gaia, you will be having timeline shifts. So it's just a matter of becoming more aware of those timeline shifts. Usually, because of the stage and phase of ascension, and if you've been on the path of ascension for a while, you're going to notice more and more timeline shifts. Timeline shifts are very subtle, but they deal specifically with those that you're in relationships with. Those that you're in relationships with have to be tidied up. So you're going to have a lot of experiences in and around you of kind of like, you know, graduating sessions, if you will. You know, are you mastering what you came to master in that ascension cycle? Have you learned patience? Have you learned speaking your truth? Have you learned expressing your truth so that's in your greater good? And you're allowing all of those around you to know what your greater good is. Because you're sometimes, all of those that follow me anyways, those of you that follow me are those that are going to be leaders. You're going to be, you know, asked to be those of the highest and greatest good, to show others the way. And so it's so funny. It never hails here, ever. It's so weird. I feel like I'm back in Calgary again. So the timeline shifts are specifically for you to tidy up stories. That's why it's really important. And if you wanted to book a session with me so that you can get more familiar with your own ascension path, what your specific ascension path is about. If you're going through a lot of tumultuous experiences in your you know, your life, you're just releasing a lot of dense relationships, you're releasing a lot of dense jobs or roles, you're switching schools, you're switching, you know, if you want to switch subjects in your school, a lot of those are because of timeline shifts. Your teams and your guides have put enough in front of you to really shift the direction of your life. And if you don't do it, your teams will give you a paradigm shift. So the timeline shifts are a little bit more subtle. They're a little bit more easier on your body, multidimensionally. They're a little bit more subtle. The ones that feel a lot more physiological are the paradigm shifts, because those are really big shifts where your teams had to shift you. Those are things like somebody passing away subtly, or you get a job on the other side of the world. That's where you can be crossing those vibrational timelines. And they are a bit more, that is a course correct. Paradigm shifts are like course correction. Not that you have been on the wrong path, but sometimes there's a lot of darker energies around you that vibrationally and systematically have kind of enthralled you in their mess. And so paradigm shifts, your teams will get you out. But that is a lot of you working with your teams on what is your excitement. Where are you in a place that's feeling stagnant? Are you not being heard? Are you not being listened to, even though you're doing all the right steps? Those are the times in which those paradigm shifts will take place. Because your teams have to, your team's role, your higher self's role and your team's role is to always stay in the highest and the best for your evolution. Because especially for New Earth Ascension leaders like myself, we play on so many different councils, we play on so many different federations. It's very important that we keep our pace, because our pods are huge. We have a lot of people behind us. So that threaded pearl has to keep going and keep moving. And there's no back in my earlier Ascension experiences, but because we're accelerating so quickly and because it's such an important time right now in Ascension, there is very little give and take on discussion. As far as, I want to go here for a detour, I want to go there for a detour. I had more time, but because of these important shifts that are coming up, there's not going to be compromising with lower vibration energies that have been told and shown, there's time to shifting out and there's time to move on. And so just know that when you're stating your highest truth, when you are, as we said earlier, the new magnetic, you're the magnetic pull for your pod or for your group or for your family or for your community, for your city. When you're holding that higher vibration, and your teams are going to do whatever possible, whether it's a timeline shift or a paradigm shift, to make sure that you're maintaining course. So at this stage of the game, especially as these new Earth first phase of 5D, your teams are going to be pushing you more and more into the the discomfort of your growth. So you're going to be going through DNA activations a lot more quickly, which means physiologically you'll be able to tell. Usually DNA activations are the number one clue is really pasty mouth over a series of 3 or 4 days. And then you're finding yourself slowing down a lot because those activations in your body have to take place. You'll be finding just drink a lot of water so that your new cell development, your new cell reproductions, the recapitulation into itself is having an easier job. So drink a lot of water and maintain a lot of rest time, because your body's doing as much as it can to process the density so that it can transmute into light. The more that you're working with light, as we said earlier, when you're working with light, having that relationship with light, that engagement with light, your connection, your relationship with spirit, you're going to find yourself a lot more in tune of these very subtle experiences and the ascension experiences that I talk about. And that's why I always suggest book an appointment with me, so that you can get familiar with when your ascension cycle is. And we say when is that you want to know when you're going through a purging. You want to know when you're going through an ingathering, right? You'll get familiar of what your energy body is doing just quite naturally, right? Your energy body is doing whatever it needs to, quite naturally. That's so weird. Paradigm shift. That's so crazy. It's like, it reminds me of tap dancing. That's what tap dancing sounds like to me. And so the new magnetic is going to be faster. So you'll be finding yourself, for those that are just starting the path, remember, everybody is at a unique pacing and temperament of ascension. There is going to be an acceleration of light. There is going to be an acceleration because as you understand, Bashar talks about it, the elastic band effect. When you have been going through and moving with ascension for quite a number of years, you're gaining momentum. And as I've talked about, anything that people find are returning now is because that elastic band, that rubber band effect is in place now. And the returns are coming really quickly, which means that you're accelerating. That follow the light energy is adding unto itself. Remember, light begets light, light begets light, light begets light. Your teams are going to be shifting and moving you quite dramatically and quickly, because there's going to be a lot of, it's like a tablecloth being pulled out. When they say they have this in movies sometimes, the magician move where there's a tablecloth and the table is set and then they pull out the tablecloth and the stuff is still there. That's what that's like. The older paradigm templates are being pulled out. The people are still there, but those that cannot handle the light those that cannot handle that new light, and if they're not adapting, it's all about adaptation, right? You're a molecule, holographic molecule in a holographic experience. And if that new cycle of light is not processable by you, you're going to feel really out of sorts. You're going to feel confused. And if you haven't been doing your clearing, if you haven't been, calling in those soul fragments and understanding and doing your daily path work and harmonizing your soul fragments, you're going to find yourself confused, trying to hang on to old stories, trying to sort out where you are. And that's where we're going to see a lot of people going through psychosis. Because they're this molecule trying to catch up into itself, but the bedding is a lot lighter, it's a lot faster. And that's where you're going to see a lot of people just experience psychosis. They're going to have a lot of mental imbalances, a lot of mental instability, psych ward, getting connected with psych wards and things like that. And a lot of it will be misunderstood, but we have to start exploring who we are as multidimensional beings and really start healing ourselves in higher vibrational ways. And so following the new magnetic is the higher vibration of light. And so that magnetic, you can tune and align with all the things that we've taught you about the importance of your vessel, your multidimensional bodies, physical, mental, emotional, and etheric, and then do those practices to harmonize who you are every day. Harmonize who you are as this new magnetic. Because the more, it's your responsibility, right? We've talked about that from day one. The commandmentship of you being in higher vibrational light experiences is that you're now taking ownership and responsibility and commandmentship of your multidimensional bodies. You know how to align yourself with higher vibrational people, the food you eat, your environment, releasing old jobs, and so on and so forth. And you can kind of tap into what is a paradigm shift, what's a timeline shift, and then you can start manifesting your way into a higher vibration of oscillation. That magnetic is all about oscillation. It's about your ability to have greater capacity to hold light for a longer period of time. So it's going to get kind of complex, but we'll explain it as best we can. And then again, if you don't get it, don't worry. Don't judge yourself about not getting what I'm talking about. It's going to get more and more quantum. It's going to get more and more scientific because we are all science, right? We're all science. We're the science of God. So catching that new magnetic and harmonizing to that new magnetic we've talked about before, it's about allowing yourself to be in excitement. How and why and what allows you that highest vibration of excitement. It's you being that creator of God, the higher vibrational essence of God. And we're following that light of God, the bigger ball of God that is in all creation. And your teams and your guides are a part of that team of responsibility that help you modify your multidimensional bodies mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. But they can only do so much. They're doing as much as they can, but if you're going into your everyday and you're drinking and you're doing harmful things to your body and you're hanging around very harmful people, doing spell work and all those kind of things, you're making the job of your teams a lot harder, and you're going to be a lot slower, and you're going to find a lot more a jostling. It's just going to be jostling. Because the bedding is more and more refined now. So it's going to mean that you have to adapt in being more refined. So from here on out, it is about the refinement of who you are as a multidimensional being, as God is light. And if there's a lot of density that you're forcing yourself to be in, not letting go of density, not letting go of wounding, not working with your wounding, and you're healing all of those aspects of yourself, that's why we talk about the healing process is everything. Because it allows you to create a higher oscillation of who you are, right? You have to release those densities to call in and have a capacity and an aptitude for light. So this is where we talked about capacity and aptitude in our last class. We're going to go into it more and more. We're going to talk about it because it's everything to who you are as the holographic version of light. You're becoming more merkabic. You're becoming more crystalline. Everybody has carbon and crystalline within their multidimensional bodies. We are now working with light. The more you work with light is the more you're crystalline and getting your bodies used to working as crystalline, because you are. The more crystalline you're tapping into, you're going to understand more crystalline. Crystalline begets crystalline. Crystalline begets crystalline. And so part of what we wanted to talk about was just a better understanding for what aptitude and capacity is. I took some channeled notes this morning, and what that means to the new magnetic, because you're becoming a lighter version that you were last year, 2 years ago. And if you're working with light on a daily basis and you're working with your teams and you are aligned with your higher self with intention, and you choose of intention to be on New Earth, then you're going to be, and if you so choose, I always say you want to be a part of the game, right? You want to know what's going on in the game. To just have that better relationship and connection with your teams and your guides so that you understand what's going on with your multidimensional bodies. You don't go running off in fear all the time, going to the hospital thinking something's wrong, because your multidimensional bodies have to move in adaptation, right? We're going to be entering into higher and higher refined light. So that means that your allness is going to be affected. How you understand yourself, again, who are you, what do you exist within, what exists in you, that is our new vibration. And because it's becoming a higher frequency of oscillation following that light, that oscillation is quicker. So that means it's a good idea to really be mindful. Mindfulness is talked about in the woke community, if you will. Because if you're operating from your heart space and everything is aligned physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, then your recapitulation is going to be a lot smoother. There's no hiccups. There's no jostling because you're not hanging on to density. You're not hanging on to dense people or bad habits or addictions and things like that, which slow the body down, right? Your body and your systems want to recapitulate at a faster rate. But if you're working and remaining in density by choice, you're going to be slowing yourself up. And that's when Source, God knows what God's doing, because God knows the heart level of everybody on earth. They know where they're at in their soul's blueprint. They know where they're at with what they've transmuted, what they haven't transmuted, what their potential is to transmute, and so on and so forth. That's why God is the only one that can dictate when a soul moves to another program and when a soul moves up in another program. And so here's the difference. Hello, everybody, from wherever you are from. Love and light to everybody. So capacity, because we're a holographic experience, knowing that you're holographic is because you are God and God is you. We're each moving at different fractals of the crystal, right? Different fractals. Right? Different fractals, there's different sides, different points, and everybody moving on the infinity and moving in the spiral. You are a beehive of experience, and in your beehive, it's up to you to kind of recapitulate, call in and call down. Thank you, Holy Spirit. And then ground into Gaia. The Gaia is a magnetic. The grids are magnetic. The moon is a magnetic. The sun has offering light codes. So everything is about magnetics of who we are as the science of God. The more that you understand those things, the kind of more fun it will be. We want to talk about the following the new magnetic right now, which is light. It's more and more light. It's more and more light. The aptitude and the capacity. Aptitude is like heights. Aptitude means how high can you reach with higher vibrational light codes? How much are you able to understand about light? How much are you able to process that light and the intercommunicating with light, because light is a active vibration. Light is always moving. Light bends. Light is alive. Light is consciousness. Light is the essence of God moving in the essence of God. So it's the micro macro. It's the God begets God. That is light, and it's always moving. It always holds intelligence. That's why we've always said all you have to do is just focus on your light, and you will always allow yourself to navigate in and around darkness, no matter how fast and how schemy or snaky or shady the dark might be. They're still dark. They still only operate in darkness. Light is bendable, and light can transmute and transfer in any direction in any way. It's a very intelligent experience, but you have to be the one that navigates and works with that light, because your teams know exactly what your aptitudes are. Your teams know how much you process, how much you are still holding on to, if you will. Anything that you're still holding on to as wounds, beliefs, limitations, discriminations, anything like that, those will hold you down. And it's up to you when you're doing your path work daily just to release those lower vibrational experiences. Because again, you want the highest aptitude. Aptitude, they were showing me, is like how high can you reach as far as light codes. Our dimensions of potentiality is infinite. That's what aptitude is really like. Aptitude is equal to potential. What are you as a multidimensional being that is still physical? And even though this is where people get confused, they've often asked me, well, how do you know what you know when you haven't gone to school for it? That's called aptitude of light. Just like autistic beings, which we're going to go have a different video altogether because there's a higher increase of autism on the planet. Autism beings are just a high functioning being like myself, and they have a higher interfacing. They can understand different types of information that you don't necessarily get from a book. So we have to be able to gear our education and our training around autistic beings, because they're a high functioning, they're high vibrational beings, and they understand information differently. They can call in and interpret and discern information differently. That's what myself as a conduit, high functioning being, crystalline hybrid being, I can do. I can pull different information from the field, from source creator, based on how I'm trained and how I'm working with my aptitudes and capacity of light. That will allow me greater capacity to express, explore, and experience the 3 E's of Ascension, so that you're maintaining that constant level of excitement. Because remember, E equals MC squared. How are you manifesting that excitement as a new vibrational being? Because again, the templates are going to be higher, refined, more pure, oscillating light. It's going to be a richer code. It's going to be a richer field. And that aptitude means that you're going to be placed on a bedding of higher and higher vibrating light. That means what you used to do in darkness is now going to be seen. It's not going to be known. What was done in the darkness out in the collective will now be seen and known. So everybody is moving up, and it's up to each molecule of light, if you will, within the pod to readapt itself to higher light. That means that you're going to be expressing whatever is dark, whatever was hidden, whatever was under the carpet. All of those things have to be brought to light so that you're processing it. You're processing the density, harmonizing it as one, and then you're integrating greater light. That aptitude is the highest potential in that one phase of ascension. We're only talking phases, because in the all of ascension, if you choose to be, there's still people that don't believe it, and if they don't believe it, they won't have that experience. If you choose to have eternal life, that means you are choosing to work with Christ consciousness as yourself, as Christ consciousness. The grids are Christ consciousness, and you can work with various techniques and aspects that I teach you and many others teach to how to evolve yourself as a Christ consciousness being, transcending all that was religion and dogmas, if you will. We're becoming our higher celestial beings because we can navigate into any realm of dimension as long as we're training and entraining ourselves to be that higher aspect of light. We always want to keep reaching up. That is your aptitude. There will be some, as we're seeing now, I'm explaining the variances because, again, everybody has a different temperament and pacing of processing light. Those that have maintained and forced themselves to be stuck in darkness, to be stuck in dark cults or covens that rely on hate, rely on spell work and voodoo and all of those things, they're going against the universal laws, if you will, because they're still sitting in so much fear and wounding. And again, everything is healable, but it's up to each person to take ownership of that. Nobody's going to hand them, nobody's going to show them the door to ascension and they've, walk through with them. You are the one that's got to work through your issues. You got to work through why you were hanging on to stuff. You got to work through those wounds. You have to call in all of those soul fragments that you were hanging on to. And why? Why were you hanging on to those soul fragments or old stories? Why were you wanting to make people be with you when they don't want to be with you? All of those things you're having to heal. So if those experiences at a soul level are not being processed, that's when you're going to, again, go through the breakages of psyche. You're going to go through the breakages of the higher self is just not able to be reached. That aptitude of higher self, the higher self is always able to be reached. But when that person has not been practiced or trained to be the higher self, to allow the communication, to allow the flow of God, to, have a higher and trained way of life, if you will, they're going to find it very hard to break out of their dark patterns of limitation, because the matrix is all about patterns. Once you understand the patterns, then you can break away from them, right? That's returning your power to yourself, and that's you stepping into a new magnetic. The new magnetic is light. Our grids on our planet are getting upgraded all the time. That's where light begets light, and you're finding that faster oscillation. What you're putting out is coming back at a lot faster rate. So again, you're going to have to adapt at a faster pace. This is why 2 years ago they told me, practice processing light at a faster rate, because it will accelerate quickly. And those that simply cannot process and there's just too much wounding, that lower program will go out. And however that is experienced is up to them. We might see it as a death. We might see it as them just popping out and we never see them again. They might just say they're going to school and we never see them again. They're going into a different earth. There's infinite earths. So it's up to that person and source, their soul, and it's up to that pod, because everybody is connected to a pod. And usually lower vibrating pods, they come as a soul family, and those soul families determine with God and their own higher self as to how and where they're leaving and where they're going to. There's infinite, source is infinite. So it's up to every soul and how much, if they were just really close to being on that next oscillating median, it has to be a median, right? If they can't even keep up with the median, there's no way they're going to come into that next phase. because it would just cause far too much psychosis, far too much damage to the cells, far too much damage to the soul itself. And if that soul is not evolving at a median rate capacity, then it holds up the entire pod that soul belongs with. So that's when they do look into other ways of a soul just popping out into another realm or going back into source, and then another higher vibrating soul comes into that pod, because the median of that pod has to be kept up. It's a very complex experience, and it's far more involved than we can ever imagine. That's why you always have in your new phases and if you know your cycles of ascension, your teams are going to offer new friends, offer new family, offer new versions of you to be stimulated and nourished, because you have to maintain your oscillation. Because especially for people like myself, which are leaders for the entire collective, and I carry a lot of new codes that are meant to be anchored and brought here, it's very, very important that I keep higher. My aptitude has to be very high, and I get really bored if it's if there's not that intellect stimulation, light stimulation. Light stimulation is not the same as reading a book stimulation, especially if it's a 3D author who only relies on 3D information. Light stimulation is highly, highly intellectual at a source, source. When you're talking about things that are very hard to describe, hard to define, because you have to, how I can explain aptitude? Aptitude is linked directly with your creativity and your imagination. If you cannot imagine that there is a world that exists, because we only know, say, gravity, for instance, if you can't imagine or even conceive that there is worlds that exist upside down, it would look as if their gravity is backwards. If you can't imagine that, if you can't accept that, that's an aptitude that you cannot move through. There are beings that operate on appendages that spiral around. They don't operate in a standing up bipedal experience. There are beings that are insectoids. So if you can't have an aptitude for the infinite, that's God. If you can't have an imagination of the infinite, that's God. That's why children are so far advanced. They've already come with that aptitude. Our school systems and our social systems have been keeping them far, far back, held back. So we're not serving our children as far as their aptitude. Their aptitude of potential is very, very high. They can see, think, and feel and imagine things that are multidimensional. So we should be allowing them to be exploring that in the highest level of creativity that is benevolently aligned. Right? That's why they get so bored. That's why a lot of them, do have that disconnect between who they are, because there is that loss of connection in that relationship with who they are as spirit, with who they are as the higher self. That goes for all of the higher vibrating kids that have come, and a lot of the autism. If we're not teaching connection and relationship to source spirit, to their higher self, out of the gates, as young as they are, that's where we're going into a lot of the old feeling lost, and then they go into addictions, and then they look for the superficial reality to sort them out for who they are. So that's where, again, reclaiming who you are, reclaiming and creating your own connection in your own relationship. Then that aptitude is going to be by your guides, by your own excitement, right? You're going to be constantly pushing yourself to higher and higher versions of potentiality. That's what aptitude is. It's a potential for you to reach, and that is in connection with, and this is where most people don't get, and that's why sometimes they get lost in the whole ascension enlightenment experience, and a lot of people end up going from job to job to job, thinking that they're not finding the right job. They're just not being aligned with their higher self of their true gifts, and they're not being aligned with the divine mind. The divine mind is that steering wheel that drives you. The divine mind is your higher self. The divine mind is that anything is possible. You can be healed even if you have a disease and the doctors say you have 3 months to live. That higher mind connection and that link is the aptitude of anything is possible. I can work my way around it. I can recode my DNA. I can move in and around my innate. I can find my motherboard. I call the innate the motherboard. And that helps you navigate around anything that is matter. Because remember, matter follows spirit. Spirit is always there. Spirit is always the igniter. Spirit is always the harmonizer. Spirit is always the imaginer. Spirit is always the infuser. Spirit is always the healer. Spirit is always the abundance of your nourishment. Spirit is everything first. Everything is God, everything is source creator. Therefore, for a higher level of aptitude, you have to know that, yes, my higher self, which is the mind of God, on the other side of the veil that is God, that is anything is possible. So that is your connection. Your connection is the higher mind. It's your higher mind, your higher self. That alignment, relationship, and connection is the infinite possible aptitude. That's why people have asked me, and many channelers, why, how do you know what you know? That is the aptitude flow. It's a channel and it's a branch of the infinite access with God. And you have to get yourself there. That's where we want everybody to get in practice of being their own answer, right? You're the one that is manifesting your higher commandment with your bodies, your mind, your spirit, your fields. And then you're setting out that commandment. That's for setting standards. No, I want to have the highest capacity to have a higher aptitude. Now, capacity is a bit different. Aptitude is your reach, your multidimensional reach. Aptitude is your higher vibrational aptitude for potential of creativity with source. Again, can you imagine the unimaginable? That's aptitude. Are your teams going to keep reaching you, and your teams are going to keep testing you to imagine beyond? Do you know that there's, things that might look to us as strange and backwards, but in another reality, it's their normal, right? Aliens are normal. Right? They're normal to me. Light ships are normal to me. But in somebody else's reality and somebody else's dense experience, it's not for them. So they don't have that aptitude. So that's where you're going to be seeing a lot of, and as they told me in 7 or 8 videos ago, probably even longer than that, your ability to seek that correlation quicker, that is giving your teams and you, I'm seeing the correlation. I see the correlation everywhere. I'm doing my inner work. I'm doing my reflections. I'm observing. I'm understanding that what I'm putting out is really returning to me. And then you're finding the correlation really quickly. That's aptitude and capacity. Capacity is your ability to maintain and sustain the volume. So these are all scientific words, and you can look up these words. And then again, align it with who you are spiritually, because these are higher self spiritual words that we're talking about. And then you can look up the scientific words in the dictionary or in science textbooks if you want. The capacity is for, I can say it I'll give it to you in some examples. And then again, every person is different based on your gifts, your skills, and your talents, how you're going to be offering yourself as service to collective, your creative service to the collective. I'm a channel, I'm a conduit. So my expression and my examples might not, people on the line might not even get it. But I'm going to give these to you because it's all that I have. We talked about the other day following source, following the light, right? When the people that are in my class get this because we talk about this. I'm just trying to give you an idea of what capacity is, because you're going to feel it. Capacity is a vibrational word that you can feel. You can feel it. So because you're entering into new stages of light, it's very important, and why we talk about all the time, get in tune with your multidimensional bodies and your fields. What does that feel like? Because these things are feelable. You can feel these things. When you go through a DNA activation, you can feel it. If you tune into your body, or again, your relationship and your connection. When you're connected with your higher self and your bodies, you can feel what's going on. When my teams are giving me an activation, or they're modifying, or they're giving me enhancements in any aspects of my brain, I'll ask them what's going on there, and they'll tell me, and then I'll go look it up and I'll do a channeling. So that's how come I know how to work with, what goes on in an ascension path. Do you know your ascension path? What is it? What cycle are you working with? Is it a quick cycle? Because if it's quick, then you have a really high aptitude. The capacity, right? All of your soul fragments, those are all your soul fragments on all dimensions, 3 to however many dimensions, 15 dimensions. We're going to talk about 15 dimensions, only one universe. Of course, we're working in a multiverse, so it's much more complex. We'll keep it simple. The capacity that you hold when you're going through your ascension path, and that infinity, you're letting go of the densities, you're realigning. Yes, I take that in. I'm going to accept it. The 3 A's, the 3 E's. You're harmonizing and bringing in all of those aspects that you used to judge, that you used to think was separate. The more that you're doing your path work and you're honoring your shadow, you're working at your shadow and you're working with it, and you're saying, okay, I can call that in. I can work with that now. The capacity is the totality of the harmonized shadow and the light. It's very big. And two, we talked about this in a video I did a long time ago about the truth about death. Death is not really what you think it is. Your soul and your pod, when we just talked about earlier about people moving off and shifting off, right? There is, by agreement, an only source in your higher self, and only your souls know. You don't need to know, you don't want to know. I'm telling you this because I can feel it, and it does relate to capacity. Not so much aptitude, but it relates to capacity. As a vibrational being, multidimensional being, working as a Christ conscious, working as your light. When somebody passes in your pod, in your soul family, in your family, and depending on karma, how much has been balanced in karma, how much they have had to release and clear, how much you've released and cleared, and how much debt is owed karmically. People might not agree with this. People might not say this is true or not. I don't give a crap. This is what I know to be true. And again, the karma board and God are the only ones, and that soul are the only ones that deal with what I'm talking about. These are higher vibrational knowledges and wisdoms, and nobody has access to manipulate, to interfere, and anybody that tries to, like destiny swapping, all that crap, all that low vibrational stuff, sacrificing, all that crap, they don't know what they're doing. They're very, very misguided, and they're going to be imploding themselves into a very dark reality. Here's what I know about your soul pod and how much Source Creator loves you, and what is really meant about the capacity to hold and carry light, to hold and carry information, and to allow yourself to be as allowing as possible, and to let go of all the things that need to be let go of, because you want to be as free-flowing as possible. That means you can have a great capacity to call in higher aptitude information, higher aptitude codes. Remember, you have to want yourself to be as creative and as unimaginable as possible. Then you can carry a higher aptitude of entering into 5D light, where you're going to be hearing and listening about stories that are just impossible. How is that possible? It is, because we're becoming less and less dense. We're not being fixed in the stories that we were told in grade 3, and then every generation was told the same stories in grade 3 for the last 3,000 years. No, we want to start raising our higher light learning to the impossible. So that's what I teach and offer. That's eternal life. When somebody passes over, remember, death is something different to each person. You might have a death experience where that person, goes off to school, but that person actually transitioned into another earth because they weren't able to have the capacity to oscillate at that higher vibration that you're oscillating at. You experience them going off to school, but they experience that transition as a death. They go back into source and they come back in another body. Some of these things are really far out and way out, but this is what truth is. This is what spirit shows me, and this is what I know to be true. There's things called walk-ins, and then there's things called higher vibrational bodies, where they can carry beings of a soul that are meant to come and meet with you. This is all done through God. It's only the approval, the joy, God's directives, God's design. For things like twin flame and soulmates and things like that, if there is nobody to meet you at the oscillating rate that you are, just giving you an example, and it's the similar as death, because you have to have that nourishment of magnetic. So God and your teams are always going to be setting up magnetics to feed you, to nourish you, because there has to be evolution. So that's what your teams and God is responsible for. Whether it's going out in nature more, does she have enough access to nature? It's very important to your teams and to the federations they are working with you 24/7 to make sure that the smoothest transition is going to be had for you. They want you because they don't want to overwhelm you, especially for somebody like me, because I'm not going to go into why, but they're working with me right now to make sure this phase is as smooth as possible for me, because it's going to be a big shift. And because I'm so sensitive, they want to make sure it's going to be a fun and beautiful ride for me. And so death and soulmates or twin flames, we're going to make that, because there's so much misinformation out there about twin flames and soulmates. Don't get caught up in the stories about anybody else that doesn't know what they're talking about. If they're a master talking about twin flames, or they're a channel talking about twin flames and soulmates, then obviously listen to them. If there's somebody just out in the collective and they don't have any idea and they're not aligned with their higher self, they don't know what they're talking about. They're just regurgitating information of what they've heard. Twin flames, because of the importance of that soul contract, they can be written as quick as a breath by God, and God only. God is the one that says, okay, out of all of the beings of the consciousness that are in that vibrational dimension, that are able to take on a body, and they have the foundations of the experiences of Earth, because I'm going to go take one step further. Again, there is no one answer. Because I'm talking about a multiverse, I am speaking from my own experience. I'm a multiverse being. I'm working in the multiverse all at once. If I have a soulmate that is in a physical body, I absolutely know that soulmate also has multiversal threads, because I need that as a nourishment. That's why people are going to be moving out and shifting out, especially if you've done a lot of work. Because your source wants us at this point, because of the lack of leadership in 5D celestial alien harmonization. There's not a lot of people out there like myself that have the wisdoms I carry that can take humanity into a new direction of multiverse ascension, first landings, new systems, new political, social systems. All of these systems will have to be rewritten, and there'll be needed people like myself to help guide companies, to help guide social collectives in the alignment of the higher heavens, of the alignment of the systems of light. And there's not too many of us out there that are doing this at a collective level. So therefore, it's important that I, as the multidimensional being that I am, I have that oscillating vibrational body, right? The universes. I need a body that's going to be in my pod that will nourish me equally in the multiverse vibrations, tones, codes. I need that. I can't be with somebody that is still working on black magic. There's not a vibrational match. So here's understanding. Everything is about equations of light. There are those that can, as they shift out, there's going to be a soul body from a similar pod, and that pod can be from the Pleiades or Sirian or Sasani, various other planets that have humanoid ascending experiences that are 5D, right? They have Pleiades are 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, they're all the way up to the 12th, 13th dimension. The higher you go, the less form you are. So there'll be collectives of light, and there'll be collectives of quasi-physical, there'll be collectives of seemingly body to us, but when they show themselves to us, they'll be very glowing, they'll be very bright, because they're highly aligned, and they're all of their vibrational 50, they're vibrating at 50% or higher. So they look to us very bright, very shiny, right? Their auras would be very brilliant. There would be some lower vibrational people that would look at a plate and they wouldn't even see them, because their vibrations just can't match. Their aptitude or the capacity to see a higher vibrational being is not there. That's why when people watch my videos, they all experience something different. It depends on the aptitude and the capacity that you're carrying to process light, to understand light codes. If you see the fairies and the light energies that fly off me, you have a capacity to see light beings. You have a capacity to reach higher. So again, watch more of our videos, because we have our codes. So there are beings that Spirit showed me. As Soul Anywhere, if they want a lifetime with you, they can take a body. They don't have to be here already on Earth. That's why we can have people walk in and out. There's people that just walk in and out of dimensions all the time, and there's a lot of anomalies like that. It's not as normal, if you will. We want to get away from normal and conformity. Who cares? No, I want to go as far as wide as possible. I want the most abnormal thing, Spirit. Bring it to me. Because I want that higher aptitude. I want to be able to teach on the highest aptitude for the potential for humanity. Why? Because that propels our vibrational omnipresent, the vibrational capacity of our pod, of our group. Yeah, anything can happen. We're going for it, right? We can imagine these really profound things for our collective. We can imagine light centers and light schools for children that are learning, and autistic children are learning how to be channelers, right? Because they have that higher aptitude. And so that alignment and that being, if I don't have a soulmate or a twin, because all of their ascension pathway has not been, if they haven't been doing their work, they can't be with me. God won't allow it. Because why would you allow somebody that's done so much work like myself? I've been celibate, I've cared, and I've treated myself as a great sacred being. Spirit wouldn't put me with somebody that has zero regard for life. It's a vibrational mismatch. It would be a disaster, an energetic disaster. Spirit would not allow that to occur. So And if there's nobody in the pod, if you will, or in the collective that's vibrating, that has, again, only God knows, only you and your higher self know, your soul's blueprint. God knows what your blueprint potential is. And if there's nobody operating in that timeline of potentiality, that capacity and aptitude to carry higher vibrational codes to match and nourish me, there will be beings of higher vibrational presence to take a body. Because I have to have that nourishment. I have to have that magnetic. That's where people kind of get lost in deharmonized, they're saying, with old vibrational stories about twin flames. If your twin flame isn't keeping up and doing the work, if your twin flame isn't loving themselves, they won't be that nourishment body molecule for you. Everything is about molecules, right? It's all about molecules. So if that molecule is just out doing, doing what it wants to do and it's not working on its shadow, it can't come with you. Because it won't have the aptitude and capacity to hold the light that you're going to be operating on. And it would be a disaster. Because it wouldn't be able to interface with you. It wouldn't be able to connect with your chakras. That the whole point of you having those soulmate interactions, and why I have a lot of celestials that are always working with me. My celestials are always around me because I need that nourishment, because there's few people here on earth that have it, right? So they're constantly in my bubble. Constantly. I've constantly got celestials and aliens in my bubble because I need it. It's the only way I feel normal. Because being with people that work on black magic and want to start, pulling on your energy and, do sex orgies to get your harvesting light and all that kind of crap. That's like, are you kidding me? That's not, like, what the hell? Yeah, no, I kind of want, you have to be fed, nourished. You have to be fed. And because, especially if you're a pod leader, if you're a collective leader, if you're a healer, if you're a teacher, you have to maintain the highest aptitude. That aptitude will keep pulling and allowing for the capacity. We're going to talk about capacity. We're going to talk about somebody taking up a body. Higher vibrational beings can take up a body, and it will be an adaptation for them. Sometimes because of their love for you. I'm talking about a specific experience that I was told and I was shown. The person that was here on earth had a very important ascension journey. That a lot of their family and a lot of their people in their pod started to shift out because they just didn't keep up with the pace that person wanted to keep. That person wanted to keep a very fast, a very important aptitude, a high level of aptitude, because that person finally found like they fit. They were a very highly intelligent person, wanted a lot of information, wanted to keep learning a lot of information, wanted to keep sharing a lot of information. Therefore, there has to be something up there in that magnetic to keep feeding that being so that that being could be of service to the whole collective. Right? So it's essentially what we're talking about. And if I don't get that nourishment, then Spirit's going to make something happen. Spirit's going to make sure that I'm nourished. Spirit will always make sure the people, the beings, the places, the environments, the synchronicities are before you, and you have to get in the elevator and push the button. And so when they say take up a body, I'm talking about a specific personal experience. So my soulmate, all of the twin flames and all of those contracts were taken out, and those contracts were all severed. That's what you call a paradigm shift, because those close soul pod experiences, all those cords have to be cut. They're taken out and then recapitulated back into source. However they choose to exit is up to them and source. However you experience, however they experience are totally different, because you're on two different consciousness levels. Remember, it's just like seeing a light ship. 100 people could see a light ship, and each person has a different experience because they're each at different capitulation, integration, capacity, aptitude to understand what's going on. I can understand even the most strangest, wildest things, so I have a high aptitude. Therefore, a being coming to me from another planet and they're taking up a human body, that's like, okay, I get that. Right? I have that aptitude. They're in that agreement, in that soul contract agreement, they're coming down to a lower vibration, which is great for me, right? I finally get that higher vibration that I need. And also too, they're lowering their self to be with me, and they're going to have to adapt to a denser human experience. But as the infinity, there's always the dark, the neutral, and the positive. There's going to be things that they're going to lose, if you will, but they're also really excited to come in for that journey, because Now this new experience for them has them being at the most exciting phase of ascension for humankind, because we get to see ourselves ascend in our bodies, which is the reason why most of us are here on this ride. This was a very pivotal time, and it doesn't happen all the time in our universe. To be in a human body and to ascend is pretty profound, because you do have to work through 51% is huge. That's like all of your lifetimes from 3 to 5D, all that density, thousands of lifetimes. God says, okay, we're not going to have you transmute thousands of lifetimes, but we're going to have you transmute 51% of them. Because you have to know how to navigate the all, the threads of the all, the potential of the all. And the only way to know the potential of the all is actually transmuting 51% of your choices of limitation. You chose to be separate. You chose to be discriminatory. You chose to be dark magic. You chose to be all those things because you didn't believe in loving yourself. So you can't go to higher realms. And this is why we've been talking about the importance of what we teach so much. You can't just go into a higher realm without moving through the minutia of all the lower realms. Because you're going to be manifesting from thought. And if you don't have an aligned thought and you know that what you're creating affects the all, right? What you're manifesting affects the all. You can't just be manifesting willy-nilly and people like, Putin. So you have to be vibrationally intelligent. You have to have that capacity and aptitude to understand what you're doing as a manifester of the Christ, because infinite is infinite. Are you serving the collective in the greater good? That's why there will be those pulled out that have been very trained. We've been trained. We've been prepared. We know how to lead people in very dynamic, strange, unordinary times, right? So we talk about that soulmate. There's that plus and that negative, right? That each person has to adapt to. My light will have to catch up to their light because they're slightly higher in vibration. But it will be very exciting for me because I have a very high aptitude for multiverse energy, for alien celestial energy, for the impossible. That's why most of what I touch turns to gold, because I can imagine the source infinite within anything. So that's why Spirit has always given me lemons, because I can make lemonade out of it. I can take anything and I can create the divine relationship within it. That's my gift. That's why Source brings me to the most challenging experiences. And I've been an ambassador of peace in war zones, because I can see where things are at vibration. I can read the old vibrational stories. I can infuse light within it, and then we can start creating from anew, where you don't have to create a lot of the red tape and rhetoric. If you're aligned with Source and Spirit and the higher realms, it's just that pure alignment, and all of the middle stuff can be taken out. And that means it's a high, more efficient experience. People get served faster. People are healed faster. The abundance goes to the people a lot better because there's no in between. It's a direct alignment with Source. Again, that's your aptitude for energy, information, wisdoms, intelligences. That is the aptitude with Source. It's a smoother flow. And so that person can take a body in a human form, and it is just like walking in and out of a dimension. That's where we're at right now. Entering 5D is an open experience for those beings, and it is watched, right? People that think they're opening portals and all those kind of things. There's been a few things that have been said. All of those things are being watched. There is no being on this planet that thinks they're manifesting a secret thing in a secret world without anybody knowing about it. These beings they sense things from Plutonians sensed what I did from across the freaking galaxy. You have spirit guides, you have teams, there's legions, there's billions and billions of beings that know exactly what's going on Earth. Because everything's vibration, right? There's pulsations of everything. When that pulsation is a concern, that hits a red flag. The legions are having that red flag, become aware. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Just like, Putin and his nuclear threats. The people like those are always watched because they're arrogant. And they can do a lot of damage to humanity, and they're not going to be allowed to, right? Because their agendas in their 3D arrogant human form means nothing. And, any nuclear experience affects the entire galaxy and dimensional sheaths between dimensions. That's why they're just so unaware. There's just not to connect. They have no clue. They just think because they're going to create a nuclear one, they have power and all this stuff. They have no idea a nuclear experience and how it affects dimensions. That's why it's not going to be allowed. Because the greater good, no. Planetary life in the fifth dimension, it actually is important to all creation. Your little you know, your little nuclear threats are kind of important to the whole entire multiverse, and they won't be allowed your ignorance. Sit down, Satan. It's just ridiculous. Man, these people, it just blows my mind. Billions of dollars that they're responsible for, and they just have no clue. They have no clue. That's how you know they're not aligned. None of it, because nuclear, and just so many, there's so many things wrong about that. So many things wrong. Nuclear energy affects the entire dimensional sheaths. There's special councils and groups with the Arcturians that help prepare and repair grids. I work with the Arcturians, helping repair parts of space because of damages done in previous timelines, because of people that think they're opening portals and they do stupid ass things with timelines. It's a lot of babysitting that other councils and groups have to do. And when it comes to nuclear war and things like that, it doesn't only affect all life on the planet, it affects dimensions. And so no idiot, and no arrogant idiot on Earth is going to be allowed to corrupt the entire multiverse just because they want to have an ego blast. My God. So there are higher vibrational beings that can take a body, and none of them are in the politics. None of them are in politics. Let's put it that way. I'm just talking about a soulmate for me. That's what I'm talking about. Or others like me, right? We're higher vibrational celestial hybrid beings. We need higher vibrational energies. We need higher vibrational wisdoms. So that being can take a body in human form, and there's going to be that infinity. There's going to be the minus and the neutral and the plus. I have to maintain my energies, which means I'm going to be cutting a lot of the lower vibrational stuff out, because I want to be able to match higher vibrationally with the soul partner that's coming in. That person is taken on, you know, its pros and cons, because it has to reduce its normalcy, if you will, to be in this experience of density. But it's also too very exciting for that being, because that being wants to experience, you know, human form, you know, the humanoid, that's celestial, that's now awakened to Christ consciousness, going through its ascension. It's a very rare experience in our galaxy. That's why there's so many beings all around the universe that are watching us and helping us. They want to be a part of this ride. It's very, very exciting. And when you wake up one day and you just feel really different, you feel lighter and you feel more excited to explore things and more excited to look into things, that is part of your ingathering. That means you've just come into a new light threshold. That means your capacity and your vibration has just increased. So you need that higher vibrational wisdoms and intelligences. And they're showing me, I'm going to be offering a lot more seminars and lectures in universities and hospitals and things like that, because we have to be able to, in all of our 3D social systems, it's like sprinkling glitter and light on all of those systems to wake them up to higher potentialities. And those people are at the very same time going through their ascension and being offered light, releasing density, releasing old paradigms, releasing limitations, releasing stagnancy, and all of those things. So to have me sprinkled all around the globe is going to be very, very important, because it will activate various pods that are needed socioeconomically, if you will, or philosophically. You know, many of you are going to be writing new philosophies for 5D. What are the philosophies for 5D, right? We've been going with the same philosophies, you know, since the earliest of times. But no, we're going into a new 5D philosophy now, because our philosophies are omnipresent. They're not just based on 3D ideologies of religion. No, religion will be kind of like a step that we took. Religions will fall away because there's greater capacities for higher vibrational allness, right? We don't want to give you just an example of what religions kind of are. There's no number. There is no number that we can talk of that will define. There's no number that define. It's infinite. There's infinite species in our multiverse. Infinite. Each one of these species has their own unique perspective. Who are they? What they exist within? What exists within them? Of who they are as source. Religions is kind of like a way, the insectoids, they don't necessarily have a religion. They just have their perspective of being source. They have their perspective of who they are, what they exist within, and what exists within them. We made religions so that we can kind of understand our environments. There's like hundreds and hundreds of religions. So once you understand that, know you're all, you have access to all aspects of you if you want, You're an Arcturian, Pleiadian, you have all aspects, you have all forms, you have all consciousnesses, you're involved in collective consciousnesses that don't have form. Do you have that aptitude to accept that? Do you have aptitude to know that, yes, you can be all things, you are all things? Do you have the aptitude to accept that you are involved in the Christ consciousness? Do you have the aptitude to accept that you are a part of the cetaceans? Do you have the aptitude to accept that you're a part of the water, that you can access the beautiful grids to heal? Do you have, so that's what we're talking about as far as aptitude and capacity. Once you have that aptitude, you're going to be modifying and enhancing who you are as a multidimensional being so that you can have greater capacity to carry greater light. So we're going back and forth. That being that took that lower vibrational experience might not be that much lower. It might only be, when you're looking at it from a lightship experience, they're showing me. There's your higher self and your teams they're always a million steps ahead because God has God's plan for you, right? And that's a living document. It changes all the time based on, again, your capacity and your integration. Are you integrating light? Are you keeping up with your light? Because Earth, there's infinite Earths. Those of us that are setting the pace for new systems, we're going to be on the forefront because we're pulling up. We're the threaded pearl, right? There's going to be schools and systems that I'm already teaching in because I can see through the veil. I can see what dimension I'm on and what variation of 5D that is on, of all the other planets, of all the other systems that I'm working within, and what light center that is on, and what aspect of intelligence I'm teaching them to. Therefore, this version of me is just doing what I do naturally. It's just in a different thread. It's just in a different density. It's in a different vibration. As I work on creating greater capacity to hold greater light, I'm going to be working faster. So that means I might have shorter classes, but they're going to be filled with a lot of information, a lot of codes. I've been finding the last couple of days, because I've just leveled up, I'm processing a lot of light, and I've been crying a lot because as I'm integrating more light, I'm releasing any of those little things that were really important to me. And I'm finding I'm in a lot more time throughout my day in gratitude and appreciation. And I'm feeling a lot more love that Source is just bathing me with, because my capacity to hold Source, the capacity to hold Source, all that I am is being bathed and cleansed, and all the densities are being released. My capacity is a lot faster. My capacity is a lot more full. So that means I'm carrying a lot more light. I have the capacity to download a lot quicker, to speak a lot quicker, to get through a lot faster, reading faster, understanding faster. That capacity is at a faster pace. Therefore, I have to be met with equal, so that it's an equal equation, right? It's not going to be mishmash. It's not going to be disaster. We're actually meeting and matching each other at a higher pace. So people can, as far as twin flames and soulmates are concerned, if you say to your teams, and you've been going through a lot of juxtapositions, and you just set the intention, okay, teams, I would like a soulmate that is this, this, and this, and your soulmates will say, yes, there's about 4 or 5 in your collective. There's some that might not make it. There's some that, want to go in a different way, because everything is free will. And there might be those situations where another person from another realm that is close to 5D, they're going to come and take a body to help you out in the transition, because the next phases are very, very important as far as keeping your energy high. The higher you maintain your energy, the easier the shifts will be, and it's not going to feel like you're being thrown off a horse, if you will. As the systems of light said to me this morning. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Holy Commander Ashtar. I'm going through a huge activation right now. I feel like I'm kind of drunk. That's how I feel. That's what this, because I'm being bathed with so much light. And I just cry. It's a very gentle cry. It's not like... There's a difference between, like purging a dark night of the soul. That's like you're on the floor in the fetal position. That's where that traumas have to be released. The crying that I've been going through is just like so much appreciation for God just being... I wouldn't be here if it weren't for God. My alliance with light, that's the name of my book number 4. My alliance with light, and that's what I teach, is understanding your alliance with light, understanding the alliance with your guides, with your higher self, that relationship and connection. And working with that alliance, and it just makes you feel so appreciative and so grateful. And then you have to go through that equal opposite forgiveness of allowing yourself to be abused, allowing yourself to be taken from and stolen from, and then that releases the guilt or the blame on others, right? So when you forgive yourself, it automatically equally releases the guilt and the blame of others, regardless of what they did. the forgiveness has to be there, right? And it starts with you, the forgiveness of yourself. And then that they get released from that guilt and blame, and then that allows them to oscillate faster too. So aptitude and capacity is going to be really important in these upcoming times, because that is, again, the new magnetic. The new magnetic is understanding, wow, I have a great capacity to hold information. I have a great capacity to, and also to know, I was always like this in the beginning, like, how do I, all these beautiful channels and all these beautiful downloads, I would always ask my teams, you know, what if I forget? What if I forget? And they said, well, don't worry. That's why I do a lot of writing. The really important stuff I write down because I want to teach, right? And then I'm going to turn it into a flimsy. I'll turn it into like a sheet later. I'll turn it into a class. And so I write everything down and I keep it in different books based on what it's for. But I'll always be able, the higher capacity you have, and the more you let go, you're just in constant alignment with source. And why, when my teams and my interfacing, I can pull something up that I might not have thought about, but my teams are saying this is going to be important because somebody that is before you or future now moments, they're going to need to know what you're saying. So that's the interfacing that I have, where spirit, your guides, your teams, your higher selves will just pull out something and then I'll speak it or I'll say it. So I just always trust that system of interfacing, because that's the connection with your higher self. That's the connection with God and all that is spirit and source. And so we'll just tap in quickly because it's important. The idea about death is not really what you think it is. It can be whatever you think it is. It can be whatever you want because you're a free will person. But part of Ascension is to offer yourself higher aptitudes about what death is really like, what death is really about. And give yourself higher vibrational meanings for what death is, so that you can move along in just being in a constant elevation of flow. And sometimes death keeps us in lower vibrations because it's about attachment, right? So that's, again, everybody moving through Ascension will have to deal with attachment and detachment. Everybody has to practice that. There's nobody that's going through Ascension that doesn't have to practice attachment and detachment. Just like nobody will get through mastery. You won't be a master unless you're going through many, 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 many years, even lifetimes, of practicing patience. That's a hard one. I'm probably going to have a few more lifetimes. And that's why I'm preparing to be a guide. When you're a guide, you have to have a lot of patience. Patience is hard. Especially when you have a high aptitude. It's like, okay, can we move on like yesterday? Can we move on like 12 years ago? But part of being a and your teams will move you on too. That's when your teams will bring in a paradigm shift, because your teams are like, okay, yes, we're going to move on. We will do this paradigm shift no matter what it takes. We're going to move you no matter what it takes. You know, however, spirit, you'll wake up one day in a totally different, you know, environment. You're going to be selling everything you have, and you're going to take a bus to, the, you know, to somewhere, you know. That's how you know your teams are pushing you to move. You have to move that energy. You have to become more, you have to become higher aptitude. You have to move those energies. You have to align with your highest experience of who you are. That's the excitement. The excitement has to keep moving on our planet. There's so much for us to anchor. Remember, a lower vibrational planet is not going to be, right? The lower vibrational planet here, they're not going to have a very high aptitude of some of the stuff I'm talking about. So Spirit's going to keep making sure that I'm going to be moved and be with people and in front of people that are going to be that magnetic experience. Because that is the equal equation of the universe. Highest and greatest good. And as long as you're following your highest excitement, Spirit and the universe will make sure it's there. Because it's that pulsation. Whatever I pulsate out is going to come back to me. And I want that higher vibrating audience. Because it pushes me to be a better conduit. It pushes me to be a higher vibrating aptitude, right? So in death, it has to do with capacity. Your soulmates, your twin flames have to do with capacity. Your teams and your higher self aren't going to keep you in lower vibrating experiences, because that's not keeping you at a higher aptitude, and it's not allowing you to be higher capacity. So you have to be able to know that your teams and your higher self are going to keep pushing you to let go of what needs to be let go of, and to maintain higher movement and higher creativity and higher change and transformation. That is about evolvement. You have to be able to have that expansion and contraction to keep growing, because especially if you're a pod leader or a collective leader, you have to keep challenging yourself in those ways and really let go of everything that's holding you back. Stagnancy and dominance and fear are the worst. Control are the worst energies. So just be aware and be discerning of it, and then move on in the highest creative ways, because your ascension relies on it. Your health and your body rely on it. So now about death, when somebody dies that's close in your soul experience, and again, this only has to do with your ability to have an aptitude to understand what I'm saying. If you don't, that doesn't matter. I'm going to say it anyways. Your ability to want to release the restrictions that you have about death and who you are, what you exist within, and what exists within you. Remember, everything outside of you is an illusion. They're just those energies of the hologram that play with you so that you can move through the densities, you can move through the wonders, you can move through the activations, you can move through the excitement. Everything in the physical is just an illusion. You're here to play the game of consciousness awareness. There will be beings and molecules and people in your pod that will vibrate with you. Sometimes they won't, sometimes they're going to move out. That is all about the equations of science and the equations of the field, if you will, and how we're all evolving in higher vibrational ways. This is why oneness is so key to understand. We affect the all. We affect the omnipresent. We affect the universe. We affect every single molecule before us. They're going to take a body in whatever body they need so that you can have that interplay. That is the same for twin flames and soulmates. A twin flame contract is as changeable as any other contract. If that twin flame, it's a bit more challenging and difficult, but nothing is challenging for Source. It's like a walk in the park. It's like easy as a breath. If that twin flame has not been doing their soul work, that other twin flame is going to be moving on for a new connection. It has to find that equal magnetic. So spirit will bring in a replacement. And they will have that new twin flame experience. That twin flame, it's very complex. So it's very complex. Twin flames change lineages. So if an old twin flame is moved out and a new twin flame, hi Scotty boy, hi sweetie, and a new twin flame is moved in, that new twin flame is now creating the family tree, the tree of life. It's now changing the tree of life. It's very, very exciting. It's very in-depth, and it's very out there. The capacity, as I talked about earlier, the aptitude to understand way far out things that you might not be able to understand. That, again, what I'm saying is challenging everything that's been about ascension and enlightenment and twin flames and soulmates. It's far more vast and profound than we know. And we don't have to stay stuck in the old meanings of what they used to mean. Your twin flame can move out if they're not doing the work and they're not keeping up, or they get sick, or some things like that. There's lots of different things that can happen. It's up to that soul. That's why God loves and appreciates us and is so unconditional. God is just the sweetest energy. God is God. God is just like, okay, that's my child. They're not having a good time. We're going to move them out. And sometimes God's a bit more stern. No, you're not going to keep hurting my daughter. No, it's a bit more stern. God's the mother, father, right? So God says, okay, I want a new twin flame for my daughter, because there's not that many people that are vibrating. We want to make sure that she stays, she wants to move, and she's got plans and blueprints and things happening on this universe and that universe. God knows what God's doing, because God's in connection with all the other universes that I'm entangling with. So I have to have certain aptitudes that will be equally in that magnetic, because I have to be stretched and challenged in higher vibrational ways, not in the continually lower doucheness ways, right? I want to be challenged in higher vibrating ways. I'm done with the dark ass bullshit. I want higher vibrational aptitude testing now. So God is now writing a new twin flame, if you will. That new twin flame can come from an infinite number of arenas and areas that are higher vibrating, because I've just now reached a new level. I can do that. I've gone through the glass ceiling, if you will. So I need that magnetic experience. And that is which, when it's written, right? When it's written, it actually changes the lineage tree, the family tree, because that magnetic is now being written as a new paradigm, right? It's very complex. I'm not going to go into it any further because some people don't need to know that. What do we want to say about aptitude? And we're talking about the new magnetic. The new magnetic is light. The grids have been updated for those of you that are on the advancing earth, for the new earth, for the unified earth, the one earth. Everybody's on a different earth based on their temperament and pacing, based on their perspectives, based on their beliefs. If you watch a lot of politics and if you watch a lot of that kind of stuff, then you're going to be on that earth. If you're entrenched in pornography in the underground and that's where you live, that's your vibration, you're going to be on that earth, right? And there's those of us that challenge the norm, the conformities, and we break those conformities up, and that means molecules have to scatter. What is our new norm now? What are we going to believe in? What are we going to give our focus, attention, and direction to? Because that's how you create reality. That's why some of us will be in the public, because God wants us as magnetics. God wants as many people to follow aligned magnetics, not magnetics that are like Epstein. Epstein was not an aligned magnetic, but there was a lot of people that followed him, like Hitler. How many people followed Hitler? How many people allowed Hitler to do what Hitler did? And now we look back, we look back now and we think, wow, how did that happen? Because that was a magnetic. Just like when I talked about in my show the other day, I said, when you hear media say things like that, challenge it and rebuke it. Because that's a magnetic. You don't want to be a part of saying, I was okay with that. No, don't be okay with it. It's just like Hitler and all the people that didn't question Hitler until it was too late. No, that's not okay. I'm going to be a part of a magnetic that says, no, that's not okay. And God will always place those to say, no, I'm going to offer something different. It's always free will. Believe in whatever you want to believe in, but there's magnetics that will take you down 3 paths. There's infinite paths within those 3 paths, negative, neutral, and positive. When you're working on your shadow, you're going to be an ever spiraling experience up, expansion and contraction. When you understand the shadow and you're working with the shadow, you're honoring the shadow, you're harmonizing the shadow, there's nothing to fear. You don't have to be thrown into those programs of Epstein or whatever, Gates and all of the 5% elite. They're underground bunkers. Why? If they are a leader, right? If they're a leader, you know true leaders. True leaders don't need bunkers. Period. So if you're working with anybody that works and talks about bunkers all the time, they're on a very fearful earth, and they're going to manifest that earth. There's no need to have a bunker. Gaia knows what Gaia's doing. God knows what God's doing. When we do have the 3 days of darkness, that 3 days of darkness is meant for you to be in your cocoon, in your home, sleeping and resting and sleeping and resting and keeping your family close. Don't let your pets outside. Don't go outside, because there's going to be a very refined light outside, and it will cause a lot of disassociation. They won't be there. That's why, again, people that don't understand Ascension, they don't know what's going on. There's been silly statements like, we're going to go out and do looting, things like that. They won't make it. Their bodies will just disintegrate. So your spirit guides know what's going on. You and your spirit guides know what's going on. If you understand Ascension, you'll know what's going on. Ascension isn't going to stop. We're going to keep moving. The 3 days of darkness is when all of our hearts are going to be sewn together as a telepathic oneness. That is a gift. It's a very sacred experience. It's very sacred. Those that are in Ascension and enlightening, those that are connected with God, that do teach about eternal life, has nothing to do with religion. That 3 days of darkness is the same thing that the Sasani collective went through. That's why your hearts are sewn together as one. It's a very, very sacred rebirthing for the entire collective that have done their work, that have done the shadow, that have done the honoring and the integration of who you are as a Christed soul, who you are as an eternal being. Right? You're going to be sewn with your collective as a connected eternal being, right? It's a very, very sacred experience. So that 3 days of darkness, just keep your families inside, just make sure that you've got water and just have very quiet time, just because your teams are going to make sure that you in your homes will be set up in vibrational bubbles, if you will, to make sure that you're not going to be affected. But you're not meant to be partying, and the music won't work. No, there will be no electronics that will work. It will be a complete and utter cocoon, right? It's nothing to fear. It's a very beautiful experience. It's like finally you're back in the mother's bosom again. And it will be that beautiful. And so just talk with your kids and talk with your, if you're awakened, you're going to be talking about this. It'll be some time yet, it'll be some time yet. But when people talk about the 3 days of darkness, most of them don't know what they're talking about unless they are a channel, like Daniel Scranton or Lee Carroll. Amora Kuan Yin, she's Amora, she's dead. She passed away a while ago. She has some good audios about the 3 days of darkness, Amora. She was a channel for the Pleiades. And you're meant to just stay at home and just be honored in the bathing that Spirit is giving you. And your teams will make sure that you're in an energetic bubble to be safe. right? To be held sacredly, because that's what it's about. You're rebirthing. You're rebirthing into the new earth, and you're going to have that vibrational, connection. You're going to go through for the upcoming times when we talk about energetic shifts. You're going to feel it more and more, because, as I said, the light is more refined. And again, so daily get up and do your ascension work. And if you want a session with me to understand your ascension cycle and what that's all about, you book a session with me. Because you want to be able, as we said, capacity and aptitude. That's going to be really important that we keep practicing these scientific words and understanding scientific words. We're going to quickly talk about death one more time, because it has to do with capacity and, oh, why can't I remember that word? As I was writing it this morning, I was like, why can't I remember that word? Aptitude. I can't remember aptitude for the life of me. So we're going to keep talking about it more and more. Aptitude and capacity is the new magnetic, right? The new magnetic now is light. Light, 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 light. Follow the light, follow the light, follow the light. And just think up really fun affirmations to keep yourself entrained to higher vibrations of capacity and aptitude. Capacity is your ability to carry lots of light. My training right now, as I told you in my last video, there's a lot of more beings on the other side, a lot of more beings on the other side, because they're training me, they're preparing me to carry a greater capacity of codes, of light, of species. And so I'm practicing what I've been teaching for 17 years. I'm going to go back to death. Anybody that is important to you, right, in your soul, family, friends, if you have somebody that dies, that energy of their soul, and again, remember, I said earlier, and only the karma board and only God and that soul are of this equation. Nobody else has interference. Nobody else has play. Nobody else has word. Nobody else has say on what I'm about to say. Only God. I'm giving it to you from a higher perspective as what really occurs. Sometimes, if you so choose, it's all about someone's beliefs and perspectives, about what happens in light and how I can hold light and how I have a capacity for light. And how I said in many of my experiences that I walk on all realms. I walk on the lower, the middle, and the higher realm because I carry a lot of light. I have a capacity for a great, big, grand soul. When I say I walk with a lot of beings, that is my soul. I walk with a lot of fucking light, a lot of beings. Dark beings, light beings, middle beings. I work with a lot of beings, right? I'm okay with it. I have a great capacity. I have a high aptitude for a lot of different energies. I honor it. I honor darker energies. I honor dark entities. I know where they're coming from. I know I have that respect. That's why the Satan won't ever come and get me, if you will. No, God is absolutely the breath of Satan. Or whatever word you want to give that being, if you will. The ones that people sacrifice to and want power of, if you will. They're misunderstood. They don't know what they're talking about, and they're misguided. I'm going to talk about death. When somebody in your family and your friends die, and it's only arranged by God and God only, period, and the karma board, and their souls, what they have transpired in their soul. When somebody passes, again, thank you, Holy Spirit, depending on what they have processed, what they haven't processed, what they owe you karmically, if you will, there's always those checks and balances. And it was even taught way back in the ancients of times. Like I said, when my granny passed, when my dad passed, and all of these beings that were very important to me, there is a certain amount of their soul energy that goes into your soul experience. They carry with you and you carry with them. That's why the ancestors are always with you. They're never not with you. Even if they died like 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, right? I have histories to the very first humanoid on earth here. That's how big my soul is. I have a great capacity for a lot of life. That's why when I do channeling, I'm tapping into land, or I'm tapping into the reading of an energy, the reading of a collective. That's my soul. Does that make sense? Crying has also explained this as well about death. That soul becomes a part of your story. You carry a part of that energy. So they don't really go anywhere. Like, that's how part of my gifts is mediumship. Those that have passed on, that's the veiled door that I have. That's the doorway that I have. That's why some of the channels and some of the information that has come through me, they have helped solve crimes that were done a long time ago. Because the souls are speaking to me. I'm just bringing it through in the verbiage of just reading the energy. Does that make sense? Yes. Space people, Pleiadians. It was the Pleiadians, honey. The Pleiadians gave us the DNA through, yes, that's exactly right. The Pleiadians gave their DNA. That was their gift to us. Thank God. Because we wouldn't be ascending right now if the Pleiadians didn't. And they're going to be some of the ones that will be in first landings, first contacts. So, there's a whole bunch, there's infinite number of experiences when somebody passes over. I'm going to give these to you because some people have been experiencing strange and weird things. If you have an experience of somebody that has passed over, because we're becoming more and more quasi, it's more fluid, more malleable. Things are a lot more like when I talked about aptitude. Can you understand and believe that energy is everything? And depending on the intention of your beingness, depending on how aligned you are, depending on where your vibration is at, will determine your energetic experience. For example, if you have had somebody that's passed over and it was a very, very hard, challenging, karmic, dark, it was always monotonous and chaotic. If you had that type of relationship and they pass over, there's still going to be residue that you have to make peace with, even though they've passed. The more that you make peace with it through forgiveness and practicing of the Christ consciousness, yes, I'm you, you are me. What about my shadow showed that of me? And the more that you forgive them all the time, you're going to carry more and more of that soul light with that soul project. Does that make sense? Even though that body has moved on, but the spirit itself is still connected with you and can still learn and grow. Does that make sense? It's important you get that. Because that is equal as aptitude and capacity. The more capacity that you hold, you say, wow, I'm still healing with this person even though they passed 5 years ago. Because you're giving them that constant forgiveness. Sometimes, this is only sometimes, people call them hauntings, or entities attached to you. They're not. There's just a continual story that you need to heal through forgiveness, right? You're because that forgiveness is a growth vibration. Forgiveness is a part of the highest compassion for all of creation. Compassion is a vibration throughout all the multiverse. It grows, a contraction expands all creation. So even when somebody passes away, you can still do healing sessions with them. It's very important you get that because that's huge. People can be put to peace and at rest. And this is why sometimes people call on, mediums like myself, because they want that peace, because the person's passed over and they still feel that negative energy that there's that cord, right? That thread. Because again, we're always connected. So the more that you work with forgiveness and compassion every day, just like especially for yourself, you're going to carry more and more that light of that person. And I want to make this very clear because there's people that still operate from very greedy, low vibrational, and the people that don't understand what we've talked about and what we've offered. There's going to be a huge awakening to all of the secret societies because there's going to be many in those sacred societies that do have many gifts and many skills, and they've been abusing them. God will give them opportunities to alter course and to learn the appropriate universal laws so that they can understand the dangers and the again, self-implosions of sacrificing and black magic. What I'm going to say is that when those beings on the other side that you experience a death with, the more that you are in agreement of that neutrality of love and appreciation, I make peace with what happened, I forgive you, I see my part in it, I'm feeling very compassionate. That is that equal healing that expands all of creation, and you will be benefited. You will carry the highest light in that, and you will have a higher capacity to carry higher capacity soul volume. That's mass, right? Light mass. That's why some people, when they talk, there's various levels of Jesus, of Christ consciousness, right? The denser vibrations of Jesus will see Jesus as a normal size human being. The higher vibrational Jesus Christ consciousness that Jesus walks with, if Jesus is coming to affect a whole collective, Jesus will sometimes show up in a 12-foot Jesus or an 18-foot Jesus, because that capacity has that much more soul energy that he's carrying with him, if you will. It's just a version. It's a collective, right? Jesus is a collective. but he'll show up in the Jesus body because that's how we see Jesus, right? That's how we remember Jesus. But the energy that Jesus at an 18-foot level carries is a massive. I had in one of my retreats one time when I was putting on a retreat, I had that 18-foot Jesus with me. That 18-foot Jesus was standing right next to me, and it's profound. All of us were brought to tears because it's just the profound energy that was. It was that Jesus came, that collective came because everybody in the group was carrying. They were all teachers and healers, right? And so when Jesus came like that, Jesus was carrying the families of everybody, of all their lineages. So it was a very big activation that day. But that just goes to show you the various everything's perspective, right? Do you have the aptitude to know that Jesus is a 20-foot version of Jesus, but it's a collective of Jesuses. It's a collective of those energies and those souls that have been masters through all time. That's where we've got it really. And when you have that higher aptitude, releasing everything about religion is so easy. Releasing everything about discrimination is so easy. Releasing everything about the clothes people wear is so easy because they're just packages. It means nothing. You're a vast fucking soul. And you have beings of energies and beings and species. And the more higher aptitude you are of being with Christ, being the universal communicator of the Christ, you're carrying everything. So when somebody dies, when you make peace with that, you're carrying that greatest light aptitude of the experiences and the lessons you've learned together. Right? I'm having a huge activation right now. I'm like, it feels really, really good. So Mother Mary, thank you, Holy Mother Mary. I love you, Mother Mary. Thank you. So Mother Mary, thank you. So we just wanted to give another idea, and because this is misunderstood in the awakened community as well. And that's okay. Everybody's learning, right? But just make sure you understand before you base your entire life around somebody's idea of a belief. Because again, we're reaching new aptitudes. Things are changing so dramatically. It depends what earth. And again, it depends on what you're able to integrate and process. If you can't process an 18-foot Jesus, you're not going to be, following my classes. Because energy is energy. I mean, energy is energy, right? I'm having a greater capacity of energy right now, so I'm being prepared to speak about greater vast things. Mother Mary, oh yes, overlays. So we're going to talk about overlays, which has to do about aptitude and capacity, right? As the new magnetic. The new magnetic is light. Soul blueprints are very, very dynamic. They're very vast. There's a living document. It's a living contract. Every new spiral of ascension and every new kind of phase of ascension. Ascension phases are very big experiences of ascension time, space, experience of the soul. That if you're closing out a huge karmic cycle, that's a phase, right? Because you've just healed 12 different karmic lessons. That's why we say, do your life review once a month. Talk to the karma board at least once a month. I do it weekly and sometimes daily. Right? That just keeps you on tap of, okay, I've got my phase. This is a big phase for me. I can feel this is a big new phase for me. I'm going to be opening up a lot of doors and a lot of new energy. That's a big new phase because I closed out a huge dark phase, right? So those are phases. Now, your soul blueprint, because you're an infinite being, right? Because you got lots of things to do, lots of things to see. As you're in this new phase of ascension, your new aptitude, your new capacity, you have higher vibrational intentions to anything is possible. You're aligned with God mind, God mind, God mind. Aptitude is equal to potential. Aptitude is equal to the God mind. You cannot heal a disease if you are not tapped in, turned in, and harmonized equally with God. The God mind, the higher mind, you, right? That is the God mind. Anything is possible. That's aptitude. Aptitude, are you in your God aptitude? Yes, I'm absolutely aligned with my higher self. If you're aligned with your higher self, you have a God aptitude. Your aptitude to know that anything is possible is going to be, because we're preparing ourselves for first contact. We're going to talk about sheaths, and then I'm going to go to my channeled notes so I don't forget. So Scotty, make sure you put a note to go to my channeled notes because I wrote down some really cool stuff in my channeling. I don't know if it's going to make sense, but I want to put it down anyways. It's only taught through me. All of my stuff is only taught through me. So if anybody wants to book me for lectures and webinars, please contact me because Spirit said I'm going to be holding lectures and webinars for people that want to advance into higher vibrational light wisdoms. Overlays, soul overlays are directly related to your soul's blueprint. Overlays are The difference between the mistakes people make, it doesn't matter because it doesn't matter anyways. Because as far as spirit is concerned, spirit doesn't care. When people say they had a life as Mary Magdalene, as people say they have a life as Jesus, people say they have a life as Mother Mary, they might carry, especially if they're a leader, a teacher, or a healer. I have some of Mother Mary's overlays. She has offered me vibrational sheaths that lay over my Merkaba, my soul, right? The design of me. The design of me. She's given me an overlay based on my blueprint, what I'm here to do, right? There's an overlay. I have an overlay of Mother Mary. Anything when it comes to healing, when it comes to loss, when it comes to suffering, all of my major themes, my soul blueprint theme, so that I could be the highest vibrational Christed teacher, healer, leader that I could be, I have various themes. And I'm constantly moving through the minutia of those themes. I'm learning how to navigate energy, navigate dimension, navigate vibration, taking in my soul lessons, observing, reflecting, who am I now, who am I now, who am I now, and then honoring it to the highest collective sharing, my highest expression. That's why I have a very high aptitude to discern energy, to interpret energy, to then share energy at different phases, different paces, because I've moved through the minutia of all my densities. That's why you don't want to rush through Ascension. If I rush through Ascension, I wouldn't be able to talk about even a tenth of what I can talk about. Because I've been through all minutiae. You want to go slow because that makes you a master. You can't become a master by taking a fast pill. You just can't. Nobody can talk about what I talk about because I wanted that experience. I took a lot of detours. I went back a couple of times on really dense timelines to get those lessons. Now those sheaths come into your soul's blueprint. It's a code. An overlay is a code. Your teams, your higher self and your teams and God, because of my destiny, because of my blueprint, God says, okay, it's time for one of her overlays to be activated because it's coming up that I'm going to be dealing with something at Mother Mary or the Christ consciousness level, meaning that this is so complex. All earths are now, all timelines are now. A Mother Mary overlay, she is one of the highest holders of compassion. I mean, the level of her compassion, and because there's been no divine feminine on our planet that have played high compassionate role models that are still here, being role models to move the divine feminine into the collective out of fair experience of divine masculine, divine feminine. We need these role models on our planet in all ways, in all facets, in all arenas, in all communities, in all cities, in all homes. All timelines are now, all earths are now, all experiences are now. Mother Mary is still alive because we're still thinking of linear past, present, and future. Mother Mary is still alive right now, just on different vibrations of earths, on higher vibrational earths, right? Her overlay, because of our lineage, because of our connection, because of our soul blueprint, we have themes of intelligence, consciousness, and wisdom teachings. That's the Christ family. Those are the families that I come from. I come from families of wisdom teachers, of wisdom keepers, of healers, of shamans. Because it's such an important time at this point in our human ascension, you'll take on those overlays and you'll have very prominent, especially right now for divine masculines, those that have done the healings, those that have done a lot of their 51% clearing, you can be taking on a lot of great overlays from people that you might think or you might feel like you have a lifetime with, say, great leaders, back in our time, great philosophers. There will be those activated, right? There's been so many really profound philosophers of our time, great artists of our time. And people will think that, wow, they used to be Mozart in another time. Oh, Mozart may have given an overlay to that person so they could ignite their soul's blueprint, their soul's theme. Does that make sense? So that, not necessarily that we're that same soul, but because the soul is so vast, right? And there's very few understanding. People don't get it, but that's okay, right? Your soul is so vast. You might think that, oh, I was Mozart. Well, your soul actually has infinite potentials to be whatever it wants. Just as I told you earlier, that my partner that is coming down to meet with me from a higher planet, that soul is infinite. It can break off to however many soul parts it wants to have whatever experience it wants. That's how profound your soul is. It's freaking amazing. If your soul wanted to have an experience to go and be on earth, to be a partner, a twin flame of somebody that's going through ascension because they need those unique codes that only that soul has in the Pleiades, God will align it. The soul blueprint will be drawn and boom, just like a breath is done. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And at the very same time, the highest, like at the 12th, 13th dimension, because it's creative. God knows what God's doing. You just got to surrender. What I'm saying is really out there, but you have to have an aptitude. If you don't, that's okay. Don't judge yourself, but I'm going there anyways. That aptitude to say, okay, well, I just got a new soulmate. That soulmate is now being sheathed with various aspects of, we say, our past. Not really our past, they're all now. They're just different versions of Earth, right? Because everything is now. That person coming to meet me might have a sheath of, you know, I know, Commander Ashtar, right? Because I need that level of continuity. I need that level of mastery. I need that level of, discipline, discerning, dedicated, devoted, committed, all of those. That's what I want in a partner. That's what I want in a mate. So no, I'm not going to be wishy-washy back and forth. No, out, bye. For the billionth time, right? There is no sneaking into my energy. There's legions that surround me. Nobody's sneaking in. Nobody's playing with me anymore. Nobody's fucking with me anymore. There's a no access code now, because there's been so much abhorrence in the treatment of me. I have to set that standard for divine feminine. It goes back to soul blueprints. What I'm saying is about the soul blueprints. This is why your soul blueprints are so vast, so wide. So know that it can be changeable, but you're the one, right? I speak with God every day, and I put those pulsations out every day. God, this is the type of soulmate I want. I need this because I want to be a higher vibrational leader. I want to put really profound energies for divine feminine on this planet. I need somebody that will meet me there. So God says, okay, and all of my teams and everybody's on board, everybody's 10 toes down. Whatever it makes it happen is going to happen. Because I have to have that magnetic. That's what Ascension is all about. Is there the equal magnetic that's going to keep propelling you? You can't keep working from lower vibrational magnetics. I can take anything on a lower vibrational experience and I can talk about it because I'm from a higher vibrational experience. But it's very monotonous. Like even when I talk about black magic and sacrifice and all, it's like enough already. So there'll be other leaders that'll come in and other teachers that'll come in and talk about that. Because it's like, I'm not growing. Saying the same thing 100 million times, I'm not growing. Everybody knows the dangers and the damages with black magic, not being aligned with your higher self, and sacrificing. If you do such, and if you practice in such, and if you practice such voodoos, you will self-implode and you will ruin your life. If you are not aligned from here on out with universal laws, your teams, your guides, and your ancestors will assure that they will start manifesting your own self-implosions, period. And then God's going to send you somebody else to manifest, those conversations, because I want a higher vibrational aptitude. I want a higher vibrational audience. Those sheaths that come in, again, each and every one of you might have ideas or remembrances. You might have a dream like, this is how I knew. I had a dream one time that I was watching Mother Mary in one of her experiences. And then when I woke up the next day, I talked with my teams and I said, can you give me more information about what that was? That was the ideas that that sheath overlay. She was showing me the story, the vibrational lesson that was in that sheath of overlay that I was tapping into. So as I was moving through my earthly experience, I had the dream, which activated that deeper lesson, that deeper core vibration of compassion. I pulled that deeper core. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Lots of spirit with me today. That deeper core of compassion. Thank you. Every time I talk about Mother Mary and the beautiful angels, that compassion activated that code. Does that make sense? I'm going to say something. Everybody has Christ consciousness that activates new aspects of who they are as a multidimensional being. That's why the Christ codes activate. The stories I'm saying, the stories I offer activate your remembrances. The highest vibrational energies that we have to offer all of creation, for you to expand in aptitude and capacity, to be the highest vibrating being that you can, is through the compassionate experience, through the joyful experiences, through your excitement to be you, your excitement to be all that you are as God, to be an eternal aspect of God in the infinite number of fragments that you are as God. The soul fragments, if they're not healed, you can remain in those lower, dense karmic experiences, and there's no judgment because people can only work through what they can work through. Every soul has their free will to work through karma or not. But it's not going to hold up the rest of creation and the rest of what is called ascension, right? We're going to keep moving with evolution. Those sheaths that come in and are a part of your soul's blueprint, those sheath overlays are very specific to the themes that you chose to work on as a soul. It doesn't mean that you are Mother Mary. It doesn't mean that you are Queen Alexandria. It doesn't mean that you are any of these people. They just offered, because they're in your direct soul family, they offered an experience for you to pull up that Christed code, to activate it in your now new moment. Does that make sense? Overlays are experiences offered to you by your soul family, by very prominent beings that have been on this planet, that have offered compassion, that have offered of such a profound level of love that they knew you were going to lead. They knew that you were going to need at some point in your soul's journey, in your soul's blueprint. This is why I just love soul blueprints so much. They're so vast and so dynamic. It's a living document because the souls are infinite. There's no time in a soul's experience. In the spiral of now, you're living all of your timelines right now, all of your timelines right now, all of your timelines right now. So Mother Mary knew that I would be needing that template of equation, because it was an equation, it's a code. That code helped activate that vibration of code, that compassionate code. That's what's called overlays. Overlays are a very important part of a soul's blueprint. People get confused and say, oh, I had a dream about Mother Mary. It was Mother Mary last night. Most often than not, it's just an overlay so that you can activate your own self-love compassion. You can activate your own level of joy. You can activate your own level of forgiveness. Does that make sense? That's why overlays are used. It's a very complex part of your soul's blueprint. And everybody has some sort of overlays. You don't operate in an overlay all the time. They're for very specific activations of your soul's blueprint of who you are within the DNA of your Christ consciousness. They help activate Christ consciousness. Does that make sense? Christ consciousness, that's why some people will, that's why, you'll have those things being said in the collective. Oh, I was Mozart in a past lifetime. Oh, I was Queen Elizabeth in a past lifetime. All that. They're just aspects of a vibration that help activate part of that personality archetype. That's what the overlays do. They activate a code. They activate a remembrance of a vibration. So that energy that Mother Mary gave me, it is a vibrational code. It looks like a code, right? Looks like a code. And that code is filled with remembrances. Again, we are psyche experiences of God, right? God is all. God is Mother Mary, God is Jesus, God is the earth, God is every Mother Mary on every earth that Mother Mary exists on, as well as me, right? Because I'm Mother Mary. I'm another version of Mother Mary that needs it right now on the earth. That psyche experience that was had by Mother Mary is different for the vibrational code for me. This is why they're so profound. When I had that code activated from the sheath that Mother Mary lent me, gave me, offered me on my soul's blueprint, because we're all connected as a one soul family, just like I'm offering sheaths for my children and their children's children on other earths that are going on right now, as well as my celestial children on other planets. I will give them sheaths because they're going to come down into a human body and be a version of me in 3 decades from now. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? They're very profound. Overlays might make you think or believe that you were someone from a past life. Not necessarily. Go into the experience of where and how you said that. Usually it comes from a psyche experience, a dream, a vision, an experience. You just keep seeing the same thing over and over again. It's because your teams and your higher self are trying to guide you and direct you like a steering wheel into what is your highest excitement. I.e., when people say, oh, I was Mozart in a previous life, they might have a few overlays of Mozart to be a composer. That vibration is composer. And they might have a lot of music in them. So their teams are trying to give them the vibrational activations and the little pushing of the wheel, if you will, so they get moving. You're meant to be a creator. Get moving. That's what overlays do. They help remind you to activate, to pull up those levels of compassion that you did and you lived in and you worked on in other vibrations. But because it's been so dense and separate in this vibrational realm, you might not have been activating too much compassion because everybody's been so normalized to be turned off. That's why it's very, very important that you work with your ascension pathwork, you work with forgiveness and compassion every day, because that's what's needed on the planet so that you don't have to have those more jarring, it's not jarring, they're very lovely, but sometimes, you know, sometimes there are people, if they're not following their higher will and they're not following their teams or their ancestors, they're going to get very jarring wake-up calls where they have visions of dying or they have visions of, you know, things being blown up and things like that. Those are very jarring ways that, you know, your soul and your higher self are telling you to wake the fuck up, you know, get in alignment. You know, what are you manifesting for yourself? So you can do so in various ways, depending on your soul's plan, right? Your soul's blueprint. There's an infinite number of ways. Okay, so we just wanted to mention that. Again, it all goes back to capacity and aptitude. So go back to the beginning of our video, and if you really want to, write it out and just give yourself little notes and stuff to see about capacity and aptitude. Okay, so this is what we want to talk about. Expanding into movement and color and higher order form. So we're expanding into new frequencies of aptitude of energy within the biosphere. The biosphere is, again, the biosphere is the nature ecosystem of Gaia. Every time we move into a new bedding of galactic space, the biosphere, the grids and everything is changed. Remember, light begets light, coatings beget coatings. It becomes more rare and purified. That's why we are going to be working with Gaia for a lot of our healing, right? And we're not going to be needing synthetic drugs anymore. A being that offers its allness to the unprepared can cause friction, even psychosis. So what we wanted to say is, where's my number 2? We were talking about capacity, right? And aptitude. Those are old. Excitement is an energetic equation. It helps activate the aptitude and the capacity that you have to process light, to be with light, to integrate light, to understand high vibrational thought concepts. As we talked about 6 or 7 or 8 months ago, are you able to process and integrate that anything is possible? What if a light ship just popped in before you? Would you understand, or would you want to go back to the ego way? Did you go through A to Z to get here? Do you have a steering wheel? That kind of stuff. So aptitude is your ability to let go and know that there's higher vibrational concepts. All is in an energetic equation which propels the godliness within you. Remember, the godliness equation is your excitement. The higher you are able to go, and everything is infinite. God is everything, right? God can manifest anything with you if you want, if you're in harmony with God. Part of your ascension pathway is to be entrained to practice higher vibrational ways, practicing your own downloads. What did that mean for me? Observing, reflecting, and then expressing yourself in new ways. That's allowing yourself to be of higher aptitude. You're not going to be able to take in higher vibrational wisdoms and informations if you're not expressing. Because remember, we said last time, there has to be an equal expression to whatever it is you're bringing down, because you want to be of capacity. Your capacity is not going to grow if you're not expressing, period. You have to express. The more frequent and excited and equal you are in expression, you're going to have a greater capacity, because that source is infinite. Source wants you to get going. You have to share source. And then whatever is left over is your nourishment, right? That's why the bigger capacity of a soul that you have, that's why source wants beings like myself that are trained, have been trained for a very long time to be in front of a lot of people. My capacity to hold great light and codes and love and to give love is so profound. I can give a lot of love and heal a lot of people. And I understand the expression equation. The more love I have, the more love I will express, which means that it's an equal opportunity, right? It's a balance. That is evolution. That is the same as, we're going to talk about it because this is what I want to talk about. It's really cool and exciting. I had this download this morning. beings that are going to be in front of us and preparing for first contact, because of their universal consciousness, their capacity and aptitude, their beingness, we're getting up to a higher level of understanding when we're talking about first contact. So thank you, Casey. Pluto is leaving Capricorn. Thank you for anybody that wants to talk about astrology. So thank you, Casey, for putting that in. That's important to know because that also does bring in the effects of, it's not a dictator, but it does help influence. That's what astrology is. Astrology helps influence how you're moving through your ascension path. And we all know that Capricorn, the energies of Capricorn and what the energies of Capricorn allow us to honor, all of the signs allow us to become masterful, right? So it's good to also know astrology so that you can become masterful in whatever the astrology planets are moving in your unique birth chart. I also do birth charts readings. My teams have told me that there's a lot about astrology that I know. It's very, very complex. Astrology is not an easy thing to know. But I do birth chart readings. If you wanted to talk to me about birth chart, I do birth chart readings from a celestial universal level. I talk about it at a soul level. I have a friend of mine, a very beautiful colleague of mine that does birth chart readings. She's very, very, it's a science to her. She's been doing this for 50 years. And she does numbers and she does like the math of it all. I don't. I talk about it as an energy of the soul blueprint. So that's what I do for healing, right? She's like totally on another level. I don't do that. I don't do that kind of birth chart reading. So we wanted to talk about the excitement. Okay, so we're talking about beings that are in front of you. This is why it's important to know. And why we talked about aptitude and capacity, aptitude and capacity, aptitude and capacity. Aptitude, again, is the height and potential. Aptitude equals potential, aptitude equals height. That is your alignment with God, your harmonization with God, how much you're able to know that anything is possible. That's aptitude. Capacity is your practicing. Thank you, Holy Spirit. That was Spirit. Capacity is your ability to practice being big light, right? Capacity is equal to a soulmate leaving and a new soulmate coming in. Can you hold that higher light? Can you learn about that higher light? Can you have the capacity to honor the blueprints within that higher light? Can you have the capacity to understand death? When you understand death, you're actually getting a benefit, both sides. So again, if you have an aptitude to want to look at death differently, you can actually hold higher light. Everything's an equation. So, I'll just say this one last thing before I get off. A being standing before you, we're preparing you for first contact. And I'm going to be putting myself out in the collective more for higher aptitude learning and teachings of light language, of light. I'm going to be doing so much. A higher vibrational being, so this is what they're saying, I'm a version of first contact for many of you that have been held in lower vibrating, denser experiences where you never were talked about. You never even discussed ETs or aliens or celestial realms or dimensions or the infinite number of species that are in our planet, in our universe, in our multiverse. So it depends on where you're at with your aptitude. How fluid and frequent are you to know that anything is possible? Many of us, like Scotty Boy, he's been with me since, I think KCOR days, right, Scotty? We talk about way far out stuff for 15 years now, 16 years. So if a being of celestial is standing before you, your first contact agreements are all done at the highest level of the soul, of the higher self. If you have, I'm just talking about species. I'm a species specialist. Yeah, way back. I think it was very first KCOR days. I'm a species specialist, a universal communicator, conduit of Mother, Father, God. If there is a species standing before you, most likely they will take a humanoid body because it's easier for you to understand and conceptualize. The more that we practice aptitude and capacity, you're going to be able to work with as many high vibrational energies as possible. I'm preparing you because there's going to be a lot of shifts coming up. So it's important that we move into these areas quickly because we can. If you have fear, look at that fear and draw it out, write it out, and then let go of it. So accept it, acknowledge it, and allow it to move into something different. Because there's going to be a lot of changes, and we want to manifest that quasi-physical experience of, I can see right now on timelines where I'm moving back and forth in light ships, teaching at different levels. I'm teaching the celestial children. I'm teaching various adults. I'm in the meetings with the systems of light. I work with the galactic federations. I work with many different beings and conscious. They're now showing me the veils are getting thinner. So I'm seeing myself on these different veils and arenas. So what I'm saying is your ability to have a higher aptitude and a capacity, you're allowing yourself to become more and more multiversal, the multiverse communicator. If there is a being in front of you of a species, they might put on a humanoid body, they veil, it's called veiling. They might veil themselves in a body or cloak. They might cloak themselves in a humanoid body to not scare you or frighten you, but they might actually be a bird person. And that's happened to me a few times. Or the being that, came to meet me when I passed out in the pharmacy, that was a Syrian being. They cloaked themselves in a humanoid body so that they wouldn't seem as weird. That being was still weird. I felt the energy. I saw, as I was laying on the floor of the pharmacy, I saw the being come from my peripheral, and I thought, that's kind of a strange being. I remembered it even though I was half conscious and half unconscious. I mean, that's how you know that you're in the energy of a higher celestial being, because, and there's many of them on the planet. Sometimes the higher vibrational beings will be in your everyday life, and you'll just look at them. There'll be an immediate connection, eye contact, or a vibrational field, and they'll just connect with you just to give you that upgrade in your field, or they give you that shifting of your energy field. So God will put those in various places for you just to have that vibrational connection with. This happens all the time, similar to walk-ins. So this high vibrational being that's sitting next to you has a high capacity of aptitude and capacity to understand light at any different level. So what we're going to say was really cool. I had this download this morning, which I didn't think about before. I wanted to bring it to you. We have to understand, because we're multidimensional beings, who are you? What do you exist in? What exists within you? Your soul's blueprint is equal to that being standing before me has equal soul aspects. Some of these first contacts will be versions of me in a higher vibrational body that's chosen to take a humanoid body just to cloak itself to meet me, right? A lot of these beings that will be with you on your first contact are going to be aspects of you. They'll be aspects of your soul family or your friends or your family that you're very, very, very close with, right? Because that soul bond will be felt. Everything is vibrational. Everything is magnetics. Everything is your sensing, your feeling. It's all about that vibrational experience right now. It's not about what you know. We want you to break free of all the 3D knowing, because we want you to have a higher aptitude, a multidimensional aptitude. That being standing before you, in their multidimensional field, they offer the capacity of all of their experiences. So they have to, sometimes they will, for first contact specifically. They're getting you ready. This is why I'm here. I'm here to prepare humanity so that we can release all these fears and misunderstandings and misguidances. They'll put sometimes filters on so that you're not going to get the full capacity. Like when I'm presented in front of people for the first time, there'll be probably filters, and the filters will be taken away as the webinar or as the lecture continues. Because the energy and the codes might be too much and it might close some people off. In those types of situations, you're always going to get the exact amount of energy and codes. Some people fall asleep because sometimes when the energy differences, the variances are too different, people do end up falling asleep because it's a pure refined code, right? Because everything is so monotone and superficial in the normal reality. So the beings that stand before you will be offering their saturation, their fluidity, their malleability, which is at a higher rate. Remember, I'm oscillating faster and higher. I'm getting you used to meeting those beings that are doing that all the time, that are much, much faster. So there has to be a variance interplay. That's why Spirit is always manifesting you in and out of groups and tides and pods, because you have to keep evolving into a faster oscillating, and it's not so much faster. It might be just a little nanosecond, right? But that is a lot to an aptitude that you're ready to take on more information, more codes, higher vibrational wisdoms, because on light ships, you're working with things that you would think are impossible. You know, like I said earlier, I could be operating on my brain without even opening it up. It's just I'm using light tools. That's because in those higher vibrational realms, you see right through matter, right? So there's no need to open anything up because you see through it. And then you just put the light and you focus there. And then there's recalibration chambers. You do your healing. All of those things. I mean, it's so far beyond what we ever know. That's the aptitude. You have to have an aptitude to be able to imagine it. That's your God mind. So this being that's standing before you, the higher aptitude and the higher capacity you have to operate, and again, working with your soul's blueprint, you're working with your ascension, you know, you're harmonizing all your soul fragments, because that being standing before you has done all of that. Plus, the beings that are going to be working with you or showing themselves to you, they're already preordained, but also too, they're working on their field like you're working on your field, because there will be a variance. Because they have a higher, far higher aptitude, because they're already ascended, right? They're already ascended past 3D, right? There are 5, even 6. There will be some that will come down from 7, like a lower vibrational 7th dimensional line, and they can take whatever form they want. When we become fully integrated at 5D, on a fully integrated 5D experience, we can manifest ourselves in and out of bodies quite easily just by thought. We can wake up in a new body every day, which we do. We just don't know, and we're not telling ourselves that aptitude is not there yet. But we can. That's how you heal disease. The higher aptitude you have is you're going to be more fluid in and out of these very changing vibrational dimensions. So that's why I'm talking about these things, because it's very scientific. It's very equational. It's very, the more adaptation you have to a higher vibrating energy, you're going to have that variance less and less. Because you're going to be, you want to research and seek out these really weird and cool things, that anything is possible and anything can happen. We can change our dynamics of our socioeconomic. We can change our dynamics of what we learn about school. It's going to be something totally different. That is the quickening of the adaptation. It's going to be fast. Because again, the omnipresent is quickening. Your efficiency and adaptation is quickening. Therefore, the collective is quickening, and these things are going to change. And everybody that has been ascended for a while, everybody's been working on their ascension path for a while, they're going to be needed, because they're the ones that have gone through a lot of the ascension clearing. So you're going to be needed to help others through it. And also too, that being that is standing before you, that is a higher capacity version of you, they're going to give you the alignments and the codes and the energies so that you can quicken and be activated in the ways that you need to. Does that make sense? Well, let's talk about that, Scotty. That's really important. Because we don't want to say, we want to have a higher aptitude about what familiar means. Because familiar means, it might, because we don't have words, right? For me, my celestial teams are familiar to me. I would prefer my celestial teams because it's, yeah. 3-3. Say a prayer for Holy Spirit. A prayer for humanity and unity and oneness. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Thank you, Scotty. We want ourselves to be okay with the unfamiliar, because that's what we're healing on our planet, is the diversity, right? We want to be as diverse and as unified and accepting and honoring and forgiving. We're healing separation and discrimination. So we want to be as easy with any being standing before you, any species standing before you. Know that they're going to be offering their aptitude. They will probably put a filter, right? Because they couldn't offer you 100% of themselves. They're still showing me what it looks like, and I just don't have the words to tell you what that looks like, because we don't have human words. We've never been through this before. They're just saying aptitudes is a clearance for you to have new beliefs. It's like a doorway. That aptitude is saying, yeah, I've got higher aptitude. I'm like free flowing. Anything's possible. So it just allows you to have expanded beliefs. Unity, consciousness, fairness, oneness. Divine feminine can be anything. Divine feminine, why not? Right? So me, because I have a higher aptitude, I totally break conformity. And some people are okay with that. Some people target it. People want me to maintain the traditionality of what for 3,000 years women have not been seen as anything. except secondary to the man. And where has that gotten us? So there's grander soul themes for every earth, right? There is the overall general intention for humanity to arise to unified expression of oneness. And everybody before you is an aspect of you for you to harmonize. Those beings that will meet you before you for first contact, they're going to be offering you a unique aptitude and capacity energy equation so that you can then harmonize that and you become a higher vibrating. So you're going to have to level up your energy to be as equal as possible, because there will always be a variance because you're not them fully, right? But that'll be a close enough match to oneness that it's not going to pop you out of your experience and you go into psychosis. So those experiences will be, if anybody knew the level of love and compassion and energy, this is why I just love, like, I cry every day just because of the amount of love and the time. We don't call it time. They don't call it time. It's just what they do. They don't get paid. Fifth dimensional beings, they don't get paid. This is just a constant renewal of working with Source Creator. There's no monetary system. Source understands how much every soul puts into the equation of love and creational universal expansion. That is the monetary resource, is creativity, is your excitement to be you as Source. That's how you really get fed and nourished. And as long as you're working in that nourishment of being fed with Source, being aligned with Source, you don't need food, you don't need all the other things you thought you did, like money and all of those things. We want to have that as an earthly experience. You know, because I haven't been given to and I haven't had any receiving, this is a part of my soul's growth experience. Spirit wants me to get used to receiving because I've had a life of not receiving. You have to have that to be a balanced equation, right? So that's why your soul blueprints are so important. You're not meant to have an entire lifetime of being poverty stricken. And if you are, you're probably around the wrong people that have been using your light to harvest off of you. And your spirit guides will get you moving, get out of there. Because they're just taking it. Again, we've gone into those stories before. And so there's going to be a lot of shifts in a lot of those energies and secret societies, those that continually abuse the universal laws. A lot of those will be finding themselves shifted out because we are moving forward. And whatever that shifting out means to everybody and each person, their perspective is going to be different, right? Every death, what we call death or shifting out or moving away or going to another school somewhere different, it's just how that soul chooses to work with God. Only God and that person and that body and that soul has last say what happens. That's why if you interfere, it's immediate karma. That's why, again, sacrificing, they're very low vibrational. You just so much misguidance. And again, your adaptation is low. The aptitude is low. The capacity is low. That's why they always circle in those same patterns of sacrificing and spell work. It goes nowhere. It self-implodes. Self-implodes. Because what is happening now is the follow that light, right? The magnetic to follow light is so much stronger and it's so much more beautiful and it feeds you in so many more. That's why I was saying, like, I just break down crying because it's so much love. Like, God is so sweet. You know, I was having my coffee this morning. I was just talking with God and my teams, and they were just saying, you know, the systems of light want to make this next shift for you. They want to make it so smooth for you, Joanna, because I've done so much for so many councils and groups and collectives, and there's like so many working on my behalf. And for somebody that's been, you know, kind of tossed aside my whole life and kind of ignored and, you know, ostracized and all of those things that, you know, we go through as being, you know, higher vibrational. I love that light that's coming in. You know, we do get thrown aside as if we're nothing until God lifts us up and shows us, yes, they are something. You know, she's my daughter and we'll be lifting her as exactly as we want to. But when you have that opposite energy, the only real love and honor that I've ever been shown is from people and the beings and the energies that are on the other side. And it shouldn't be that way, but we're here to promote that on this side. We're here to promote love and unconditional sweetness and how much your teams care about you, how much energy goes in to just creating a channel like this, how much energy I expend in these high vibrational channels, high vibrational learning sessions that you would have to pay $250 to see me in person, you know, in a 3-hour seminar. So there's a lot that goes into all of the you know, the explorations and expressions. And God is going to be very, they're going to be paying a lot of attention as to how much I express, how much they're going to make sure there's a ring around me for the first little while, because they want to keep me protected, my energy, to keep my aptitude and my oscillation, to make sure that I'm not damaged and hurt. When I'm going out, this is why there's been a very slow process to slowly integrate me into the collective, and the demands from the collective and what that means. And that's why I had to go through those, you know, secret societies and covens and so on, because it's a mirror to the bigger collective. You know, the abstract, you know, belief systems that people have, the limitations that people have, the ideologies people have about a divine feminine stepping forward with great wisdoms. What are the ideologies we have, and how can we start transmuting those very limited discriminations about divine feminine? So there is going to be a lot of things that the human collective will face, and all of you that have been with me forever, you're going to be a part of that support system for me, because you've already done that work. Right? You've sought me out and you've supported me, and you've been there in the bleachers, if you will, you know, cheering me on as I've gone through the many minutiae that I've gone, because it's all been preparing me for a greater collective experience. But energetically, it's a very, as I showed you in my last video, that last video was the first video I presented in this new energy. So there's a lot of energy flowing through me, and the capacity is a lot grander. There's a lot more expression. There's a lot going into the expression, right? It's a big, big soup. Yeah. I love you, Scotty boy. We've all come a long way together, haven't we? Like, we've seen humanity, the minutia of humanity, right? And all of my clients and all the ones that have been with me, I absolutely, this is my prediction. This coming year for 2024 and 2025, each and every one of you will be presenting yourselves as collective leaders and teachers and healers. And I know that of you. I see the Christedness in you. So don't ever let any belief or any hurdle or any block hold you back. Keep expressing, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, keep moving, because that momentum is going to be building your platform and how you allow yourself to be that capacity equation of you being that light, follow the light that the collective will need. Because as I said, there's very few people talking about universal ascension and evolution at the level that I am, that will be needed for the infinite species that are on our earth right now. There's so many high vibrational children and high vibrational adults that don't even know they're high vibrational or hybrid. So me and my activations and me just presenting myself to the entire collective is going to be helping our human ascension so much. Because as I said, because I've gone through so much minutia of experience, that's a code sitting in my field. Like I said earlier, when that vibrational being stands in front of us, I'm giving you these variances as examples. That species standing before me might be a 7th dimensional being coming to take a 5D body. But that being before me, because I'm a reader, because I'm a healer, everything is vibrational first. The physical is secondary. I feel the energy first. That's what I'm preparing you for. When you're people, that's what people don't get. When you're standing in front of a being that has a capacity to carry twice that, that's a lot of freaking energy. That's why sometimes people see Jesus as the 18-foot Jesus. There's a whole lot of fucking soul energy there. And it's an impact. You're on your knees crying. Like I just came in contact with an 18-foot Jesus. You will be on your knees crying. That's how much it's utter reverence. It's so much love. Your heart just, like 3 of us at the same time, we just got on our knees and we just cried. Because it's just instant. Your heart just breaks open for so much gratitude and so much love. That's how much love that Jesus emitted. And then again, an 18-foot Jesus, there's so many more beings in the collective of him that he comes with, right? Because it's part of my soul, part of my soul family. So that's what I mean about aptitude and capacity. when you're working with your soul fragments, so that's why get excited about working with your shadow, because when you integrate your shadow, when you integrate those soul fragments, you're not going to get stuck in any karmic stories. You're going to want to get through that and say, okay, well, that was an exciting story to learn. Boy, did I learn a lot there. You're integrating, you're creating that capacity to carry greater light, to carry greater understanding, to carry greater soul and soul stories. God will place those that have had a lot of experience before people. Right? Like, you got to know how to connect with as many soul stories as possible. So that's why my journey has been very long and slow. And other people, you know, I've had some, you know, some people say, well, there's other people, you know, that are teachers and stuff that have been, you know, teaching for quite some time. And I'm a kind of a late bloomer, if you will. You know, I've had to go through, I've wanted it slow. God wanted it slow. Because there's not many people that are, you know, there are no conduits. There's no conduits that are teaching. I'm the only one that teaches and offers what I do. So we couldn't have just thrown me into the public 10 years ago. I did a very small live event in Sedona. That was my first live event. I think there was about 100 people there. It was so much fun. Then we watched light ships. We went out at night and we watched light ships. It was so much fun. That was an amazing time. Poor Jesus. Too funny, Scotty. Any version of Jesus is amazing, right? Any version of Jesus is like, you're just grateful for all. Because that's you. It's you. Whatever version you need, Jesus is going to be there. Jesus will be in a fairy or a gnome, whatever Jesus wants to, Jesus will be there. Right? Because it's a collective of our pure hearts. That's what Jesus represents. Pure connection with God. God is so sweet. The number of times that I've cried, and I have all of these crying sessions, because it's like, when we truly understand God, God is so sweet. God is so adoring. God is so patient and gentle and loving and playful. God is so playful. And the systems of light were telling me, you know, Joanna, we're going to take it really slow. We want to make sure it's smooth for you. And they're always talking me through things. You know, they don't want me to get all freaky, because sometimes I can get, you know, transgression-y. And I say the F word quite a few times. You know, and they say, oh, she's going through transgression. Here she goes. This is her pattern. We're breaking her out of her pattern. We're breaking her out of her pattern. She's going to go through a day of transgression. She's going to yell and swear. And then she's going to come back into her new state of adaptation. Like, we all have our ascension cycles. So my teams know. But I've told them lately that I need more loving encouragement. No more fucking throwing me into anything that I'm going to be pissed off about, because I'm tired of that. No more devil ass play. I've been very specific about what kind of experiences I want from here on out. And that's why having those discussions with the karma board, having discussions with your team on a regular, daily, weekly basis is really good, because they know you, because they're you, right? They're ascended aspects of you. But you can say, no, I don't want that experience anymore. I've fucking had enough. Like, put another light worker in their path. I don't want to play that role anymore. You have that right. And that's why when those soul people that come to meet you, those beings, they can be from whatever planet realm that is good for your soul's record. Only God and you at your highest level determine that. Because your pod that you belong to on 5th, 6th, 7th dimension, all the threads that you're connected with on your pod of your soul's team, of your oversoul's team, only God knows what's happening next for each and every one of them on all dimensions and all threads in any given moment. So how would anybody this is what's so ridiculous. There has to be greater understanding and guidance, because even for anybody to conceive at an earthly 3D secret society level, to think that they even have a concept of the beings that you're connected with in a soul experience, and God will have that experience plucked within like a breath. Okay, we're not playing that game, cowboy. You have to understand the intricacies and the elegance and the benevolence of a soul blueprint. Everyone is here threaded with the infinite. Everyone's here threaded with the all. Everyone has a guide or more, 3 to 12 guides at all times. Everybody has a higher self. That higher self is connected with all the ancestors that you come with. When you start messing with destinies and blueprints, And you have no right to, because you're only 3D and you're not healed because you're in that greed and all of those energies. Those are just woundings, and that will self-implode you into a lot of karma, a lot of karma. I wouldn't even... Anybody that talks about those things in secret societies or covens or cults, anything like that, about anybody's destiny or blueprint, thank you, Holy Spirit, go the opposite way and run. You don't ever be a part of those conversations. Even being a part of those conversations are karmic. And you will have karma added unto you. And if you act on them, and if you do spell work on them, and if you get involved in anything like that, about messing with other people's destinies, whether it's a sniper taking out somebody in Iran or Israel, those people will carry the souls and the karma until that karma is cleared. And that karma won't get cleared until they go through similar incidences of them and themselves and their own families. Because sometimes that's how people learn. If people aren't heeding the soul's call, if people aren't heeding spirit, if people aren't heeding what they've been given, the red flags, over and over and over and over and over again, sometimes the only way to learn is through death. Tragic death, tragic illness. So spirit gives you, God is so sweet. If you understand the higher guidance, if you understand the higher intricacies, if you understand the evolutionary beauty of all creation, all you would want to do is just surrender into the greatness of God. God is so incredibly divine, wants the absolute best and joy for you. Karma is unfolding from all those that attacked me for 8 years or more. There's karma just unfolding now. That's how gracious and patient God has been. And God, patience is really a human term. God doesn't even need patience. God understands the blueprints of everybody. God will not allow a very intricate being like myself that has the capacity and the wisdoms and the depths of what I do and who I am and what I know to help all of humanity and all of multiverse be held up by a group of secret misogynistic bigots and nasons that want to play games with my destiny because they want to suck the fucking life out of me to manifest a party. They want to manifest a new boat. Thank you, Spirit. Do you see all the spirits that are flying around me? Really, really. Ooh. And so we were talking about the beauty of God. God was so amazing. And so the systems are saying, we're just going to ease you in it. We're going to move you through real slow. And they're just, we just want to make sure this goes really well. Because I've been through so much bullshit and torment. They really want to make this next phase really like a birthday party for me. So that's, I just felt so, I haven't been treated like that here on earth by any means. But we're here to start, I want people to start manifesting these experiences for themselves on earth. We should be treating each other like every day is your birthday. Like, I know how much love and how much gratitude I have for those that I love. And every day I wake up just adoring life, adoring how God loves me, because it's that reciprocation. And this is where the divine feminine has been missed on our planet. And so God was saying, you know, I want the best for you, my daughter. And I just want, I want you to be happy, because it's a marriage, right? I want the best for mother, father. I want to always please the mother and the father. And I say please not in a codependent, leveling up, measuring up kind of way, but I always want to make sure that I am in similitude and equal measure. I mean, it's a sacred soul experience, that connection, that relationship. And so because I give so much, and of course I'm always keeping myself in check, right? If I have a transgressionary hour or day, you know, God is always assuring me that they're working things out, There's a lot going on behind the scenes that you have no idea about, especially if there's a huge karma. Like, part of my soul story was to bring a lot of the corruption from the underground. My story was attached to a lot of the, that's what they do. They put me in these dark places. I pierce the light, whatever that dark energy, that dark story, because I work with vibrational stories, those dark stories are pulled, and then we make new systems. That's what crystals do. And because I can see it from the different perspectives and the different vibrations and the different threads of dimension, I can offer a lot to help systems and to help society and to help businesses grow, to help souls grow. This is why my role as a conduit is very, very important. There's not a lot of people that can do that at the capacity that I do. I'm here to also help train other beings to be like this, so that they can work with different variations of dimensions and threads and really expand creation. But God's always going to make sure that I'm supported and nourished equally, because otherwise I won't be the highest level of service for me and God and creation. I have to feel loved and accepted and honored, right? Otherwise, what's the point? You have to give that for yourself. It's my relationship with God. It's my relationship with my teams and my celestials. That's how I can talk about what I know. I'm here only because of my teams and my ancestors and God. I said to my teams the other day, I said, well, what if this happens? And they said, we won't let that happen. And I said, but you did before. And they said, but we've made some alterations and we've changed this and we've changed that. So we're all learning, all of the higher selves and the souls. And then again, there's sometimes, and it was, disrespectful for me, and I'm calling myself out. I said to my teams, I said I wanted a change of guides, because I just didn't feel that connection. I needed this. I told my guys, I said, this is what I need. I need this from you, because they're me, right? They're other aspects of me. And just like me, I can be a douche sometimes. I can be a douche. And I'm like, I said to my guys, I said, just forgive me for whatever I'm going to say. I just need to let this out because I just don't understand, and it's so ridiculous and it's so stupid. And then I let that transgression out, because I clear a lot of densities from the human collective. If there's something really low vibrational happening in the collective, I transmute it. And then I say, okay, what can we do in a higher vibrational way? What can we do in a new way? What can we do in a vibrational way that makes sense for everybody, the greater good? That's why beings like me are so important to get out into the collective, because there's so much benefit. There's so much benefit by seeing the capacity of the greater view, the grander view, instead of just the perspective of a Republican or Democrat. I mean, that's very limited, low vibrational. You're human, right? Take away the labels. There's not going to be politics in 5D. There's just going to be, human service leaders, ambassadors of peace, ambassadors of the environment, ambassadors of healing, ambassadors of leadership, ambassadors of nature and wildlife. So there's not going to be politics. There's just going to be ambassadors of unity and oneness. So that's the benefit of having, I don't just channel energy. I'm a multidimensional soup stuff. So we're just going to do a light language before we go. So take a deep breath, straight back, breathe up, breathe up, breathe up, breathe up. Just release any energies you've been holding in your body, in your organs. Just release, full body breath. Raise your pillar of light, 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 raise your pillar of light. Bathe yourself with holy light, bathe yourself with holy light. Thank you, Holy Mother, Father. We love you so very much. I love you, I love you, I love you. Please bathe all the people that are listening now in future now moments with the divine holy light. Thank you, Holy Spirit. We ask Archangel Michael to please bathe and cleanse anybody that so desires to have the purity of intention. Bathe and cleanse their fields with the divine holy light. Thank you, Holy Spirit. And we love everybody that is attended now in future now moments. Bathe everybody with divine holy light. And release any cords and any energies of any things or entities or beings that have been connected with you or attached to you that you so choose not to have. Just say, I release you now, please. Return back to source. Your field and your energy and your consciousness is you and you only. You have utter control and honor with your own energies, with your consciousness. Nobody touches your consciousness. Nobody touches your chakras. Nobody can harvest from you. Nobody can take from you. Nobody can swap your destiny. Nobody has control over you. Nobody handles you. Nobody controls your mind. Your mind is your own. Your mind is your own. Your mind is your own. Usiana makaratake na amai ite shishana da karataka mai ite kesiana da karatake na Esiana makarataka na anna make te keshishama na Esiana makaratake na ite keshina makaratake na ite ke ana da ke dai na da ka dai da ke de na Hi, shishya mamai lay dedicate, I and the cut of the kai dedicate, nai dedicate, nai dedicate, nai dedicate, nai dedicate. We're just going to put extra violet flame around your crown chakra. Cleanse, cleanse, cleanse the crown chakra with the violet flame. Dedicate, I dedicate, I dedicate, I dedicate, nai dedicate, nai dedicate, ananai la 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 dedicate it again, and a cut of the kai, and get it again. Deep breath. I'm harmonized. I'm connected with my divine higher self and hour one, my higher self and hour one, my higher self and hour one, my higher self and hour one. Calling yourself fragments. I am love, 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 I am love. And feel yourself ground. Quick little tips like that and your breathing exercises are really important to ground you. As you go into new phases and arenas and dimensions, and as you quicken, you're going to need to really take more time, quiet time, breathing, turning off electronics, grounding, breathing, reading, creating creative stories, creative artwork. It's going to be really important. And again, everybody's going to be needed to be creating these new earth experiences for earth. So just know that it's all going to be needed. Everybody's going to be needed. So that's why you don't ever have to worry about not being enough. You don't have to worry about not having a plan or a destiny. Everybody has a destiny. Everybody has a soul blueprint. If you want a session with me, please book it. Our donation tab is below. If you want to book a session, donation tab is below. And then just put the comments in the comment section. We're sending you all very much love and light and love and blessings. Rainbow hugs and tickles. We love you. Mark down aptitude and capacity. And think about it. And just think about if a being was standing before you, get yourself used to knowing that that being is going to come with all of their soul stories. And it's going to add a lot of value to your soul story, right? That's what being unified is so important for us. Because that being unified with everybody in our collective adds to our soul story. It adds to who we are as masters, right? That's why masters always walk about the planet. Because that's how they activate unification. That's how they activate diversity. But that's also how diversity is fed back to each and every person and being. So unity and oneness is so, so important. And leaders should be talking more and more every day, every day, every day. And just empower this. I am on a world where we talk about healing, unification, diversity, and oneness. So your affirmations and what world you're seeing and intending light, following the light, following the light, following the light. Okay, we love you so very much. Rainbow hugs and tickles.